Good morning, everybody. The Community Redevelopment Agency for the City of Tampa is now in session. If I could ask everyone to please silence your cell phones. Thank you. Councilman Goods, you have the invocation.
Well, Mr. Chair, thank you. This morning we have the pleasure of having Pastor Tom Jones. He is the senior pastor and founder of Heavenly Destiny Church, Inc., located at 4105 East Ellicott Street, Tampa, Florida, 33610. Pastor Jones is a licensed and ordained pastor with the Assemblies of God and has been preaching the gospel for over 25 years. Pastor Jones is a proud husband to Willie Mae Jones and the father of three beautiful daughters, Tamika, Tomasana, and Amari Jones, and one grandson, Terrell Woodard. Pastor Jones formed Community United, an organization whose mission is to bring educational and nonviolent strategies to the inner city and being the voice between the community, police force, government officials, and the media so that all forms of communication is accepted and respected equally. He has also impacted the community through outreaches such as the Back to School outreach, the Thanksgiving pop-up pantry outreach, and the Christmas Make a Child Smile outreach, because giving back to the community has always been his passion. In 2019, Pastor Jones participated and graduated from the Mayor's University and currently resides as a board member at James Elementary School and the Women of Color Golf. Please welcome Pastor Tom Jones.
If everyone could please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we come right now in the most humbling manner that we know how. Lord, asking for your guidance, asking for your wisdom, knowledge as we set forth this session this morning. Lord, we pray right now that you would give these councilmen, Lord, the wisdom and the knowledge, Lord, to make decisions and choices, Lord, that will meet with your will. Lord, we ask you right now that you will bless this city, bless all the things that we are attempting to do. Lord, not just for some, but for all people. We are praying right now, Lord, that as we move forward into this 2020 year, that you will give us a vision, Lord, that will line up with your word, that your truth will prevail over all things that is being done and is being said. We pray your anointing in this room today, that each and every person that comes to this podium will come representing you and representing the purpose and the vision and the plan that you have for this city. Lord, we lift this session up to you right now. We lift each individual that is in this room up to you right now. We say, have your way. Mold and shape it into what you would have it to be for this hour. And when it's all said and done, we're not looking for praise, honor, or glory, but we want all the praise, honor, and glory to go to you. And it is in Jesus' name that we pray. And everyone that believes said, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Dingfelder. Here. Goods.
Here.
Maniscalco.
Here.
Vieira.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
And Citro.
Here. Ms. Van Loan, do we have any changes to our agenda today?
Michelle Van Loan, Economic and Urban Development. At the pleasure of the CRA Board, we are requesting that FDOT be able to make their presentation immediately after the public comment. And then we are also asking then to proceed with the CRA chair due to illness so that she may also not have to sit here very long for her health. And those are the only changes that we're requesting.
No deletions to the agenda?
I didn't know if one of the members wanted to.
Go ahead, Councilman Goods.
2020.
You making a motion?
Second.
What's item 4? Item 4 is the Fair Oaks progress.
We have a motion made by Councilman Goods, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
I believe you're ready for public comment.
I am ready for public comment. All those who would be like to make a statement, you have 3 minutes, and I would suggest, if you could, to move up to my left side of the room or your right. Again, 3 minutes. Mr. Vela, would you like to start?
Good morning, Council. My name is Christopher Vela. I live at 9241 half East 11th Avenue. Just to clarify, I do sit on the YCDC board, but I'm also neighborhood president. I'm going to reference my comments over to the CRA letter that was submitted to this board from the YCDC. Now I'm going to roll into my own personal comments. The program that they use in the economic impact analysis for our CRA doesn't determine local impacts to our CRA. So this means that any type of economic damages wouldn't be localized. What FDOT does is they look at a county-wide picture, which is beyond our CRA limits, and say, well, if properties further away gain value, the properties next to the highway that lose value, well, that's just an offset to that, so it makes up for it. So this is not a microscope into the damages that we have been incurring. The reason why we have CRAs in the first place is because of the interstate system, right? That's because it went through communities, minorities, and went through a lot of the culture that built a city, and it left a lot of blight, erosion on our properties. Now, we had a lot of horrific roads that came into our neighborhoods. In Ybor in particular, we had New Seal Parkway, which we do see 12.5 crashes per mile, right? And so the issue is this. FDOT currently in the county are saying that we have 7,500 cars at that intersection. Well, they want to design that up to 29,000 cars by 2030s. And I can tell you this is going to be catastrophic for Ybor City. This is going to be catastrophic for the air quality. The report from FDOT says if we move cars, that's going to help with the air particulates. But in my opinion, if you have two stoplights getting off of on the way to I-4, that's really going to jam up the cars. It's really going to stack them. And those roads, those exit ramps do border our neighborhoods. So we are still going to breathe a lot of this. Now, for West Tampa, there's going to be toll lanes over there. And the report says in here that they find that people avoid toll lanes. So what do? They go through West Tampa neighborhoods. So they can put sound walls all they want. But if they dump all this traffic locally, it's just going to offset all that effect, right? CRAs need to have a chance to grow. CRAs need to have a chance of a certain future. This project will damage that effect. We cannot be responsible to mitigate everything that FDOT does. We are not responsible for them lowering our property values. They need to pack their bags, they need to get out of town and not be in control of our future, our health impacts, and our road safety. So please do something. Please, the next time you do this, get the mayor in here so she can hear us all about these issues that we're presenting today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Ron Weaver, 401 East Jackson Street. This morning we have an opportunity to finally decide the fate of downtown's ability to move about, the ability to move to USF, to Pasco County, to move between education and health facilities by fixing the downtown interchange at last. It is a compromise of only about $340 million. It is not billions of dollars as was discussed 2 or 3 years ago. And this particular preferred improvement by the DOT is only $340 million. It only affects about 5 or 10 properties, not 2 or 3 or 400. It is a compromise that is sensitive to the community. It has talked to the DOT has talked to the community, and respectfully, we need to fix that downtown interchange. There are over 1,000 crashes a year in that interchange. And if you've ever tried to come in from the east, you'll notice those 4 or 5 lanes are all cars constantly switching, deciding whether to go downtown or to go to the airport or to go north to USF, and it's a crazy collision set of 1,000 crashes. We need to fix that interchange. The back up coming south from USF to go to the east movement toward Orlando is unconscionable. To have only 1 lane to deal with that many trips, to have 126 million tourists dependent upon us fixing our downtown interchange. We need to be sensitive to the neighborhoods. Yes, I've stood at this podium 2 or 3 times the last 3 or 4 years and said, yes, we must be sensitive to this community. We must be sensitive to all of these neighborhoods. They deserve to be given the absolute state-of-the-art sound walls. They need to be given every consideration with preventing air pollution. But air pollution is caused by cars sitting in traffic because they cannot move. They're backed up for 2 or 3 miles to the north, trying to get onto 1 lane to go east to Orlando. Air pollution is caused by, and this studies have confirmed it, Air pollution is caused by cars sitting in traffic. You will be reducing pollution if you will fix the downtown interchange. It does not affect even a 20th as many properties as were originally contemplated with respect to the downtown interchange fix. It would help to prevent many of those 1,000 crashes, and please give consideration to allowing this region and this state to move its people to healthcare facilities, to education, to work, to play, to enable the downtown interchange to function again, and to change its name from Malfunction Junction to the Invitation Junction for the continuing tourism, education, and medicine that needs to be moved in this region. Thank you.
Next, please.
Good morning. My name is David Epstein. My son Joe and I own a 74-year-old, third-generation iconic business on Kennedy Boulevard and Tampania, State Vacuum of Tampa. We recently moved approximately 5 blocks to the east on Kennedy after being at the 3100 block for 54 years. Recently, we were cited by the Neighborhood Empowerment Department, whatever that is, for banners on our building and site that are, quote, illegal. The past 10 years has been the most challenging of any of our 74 years for small businesses throughout the country and our city. As you can see, small family businesses are saying goodbye in all parts of the country, and especially here in Tampa. The city encourages the big box stores, the Trader Joe's of the world, with tax incentives. They look the other way on parking. They look the other way on banner signs. The city has bent over backwards to allow them to put in a building at Trader Joe's with inadequate space, poor parking, horrible ingress and egress, and banner signs are prevalent there. The inspector told me on the phone, quote, "We are here to clean up Kennedy Boulevard for the Super Bowl." Now, up and down Kennedy Boulevard, there are massage parlors, there are strip places, there are lingerie modeling, and God forbid the state vacuum has a banner out there that's going to make this city look bad. It's embarrassing, quite frankly, after being a native here, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Folks, we're all just trying to survive. Small businesses, regardless of what you are just trying to survive. And by these inspectors, and I understand, quote, they're only doing their job, are coming out to do this, and it's gotten to be absolutely insane, some of the laws that they have. To enforce them, yes, jaywalking is also illegal in this city. I don't see a lot of that enforced either. Over-regulation has hurt this city for years. Think about it. You used to say, do you remember that store? Do you remember this restaurant? Do you remember that place? Those places aren't here anymore. Why don't you look in the mirror and see why they're not here anymore? An awful part of this is the overregulation. The city of Tampa violates its own code with the City of Tampa Convention Center and the scrolling sign, electronic sign. That's not legal, but when I brought that up to them, they said, it's different. We can do that. Why? I don't know. I put together a bunch of pictures of Publix, Trader Joe's, Raymond James, Tampa General Hospital to see their banners. I implore you to look at that and give us a break.
They didn't cite the gorilla, did they?
They did not yet, John, but I'm sure they will.
Chair recognizes Councilman Dingfelder.
Yeah, thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next.
My name is Pastor Frank Williams, located 1112 East Scott Street. I'm going to read some scripture to you because y'all don't give me enough time to speak it or anything else. Praise ye the Lord. This coming out of the book of Psalms, the 146th division of Psalms. And I hope y'all pay a close attention to it. Praise ye the Lord. Praise the Lord, O my soul. While I live, will I praise the Lord. I will sing praises unto my God while I have any being. Put not your trust in princes, nor in the Son of Man, in whom there is no help. His breath goeth forth, he returned unto his earth. And that every day his thoughts perish. Happy is he that hath the God of Jacob for his help, whose hope is in the Lord God, Lord his God, which made the heaven and the earth and the sea, and all that therein, which keepeth truth forever, which execute judgment for the oppressed, which giveth food to the hungry. The Lord loosened the prison. The Lord opened the eyes of the blind. The Lord raised them that are bowed down. The Lord loveth the righteousness. The Lord preserved the stranger. He relieved the fatherless and the widow. But the way of the wicked is turned upside down. The Lord shall reign forever, even thy God of Zion, unto the greatness. Praise ye the Lord. You know, I like to read the scripture because I'm a believer in God, and I'm a firm believer in God Almighty. And I just like to lift up the name of Jesus Christ, because if it weren't for God, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here looking at me as if I'm stupid. We'll be praising God, all of us. You know what? The mayor, she came down to Fair Oaks there. She didn't come. She supposed to have showed up. You know, she didn't even show up. She didn't even come. I got up and walked out of there. She made promise to people as if she's going to be there and never shows up. We need to contact the mayor because you all ain't doing nothing but trying to hurt us and destroy us. And I'm talking about people of color. We think that people of color are not even citizens of the United States of America. The way y'all treat us as if we're less than a damn dog, and that's not right. You got to treat us like people. Treat everybody like people. That's what God created us to be, human beings. And that's what life should be about. We shouldn't have to come down here and begging y'all for justice. Y'all to give us justice without us having to beg. And you know what? How the mayor getting her salary, getting it off the taxpayer. And she take the taxpayer money and give it to the white folks. And that's not right.
Thank you very much. Next.
Thank you. God bless you. Next person, come on up. Thank y'all for letting me skip. God is a good God, isn't he? Amen. Yeah, hallelujah. Don't care what they think about me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Mentes Knott, Tampa, Florida. One thing about this city council and one thing about white people, they keep black people confused. They got us down here I've been coming down here for about 30 years now, begging. Week after week, begging. Got black people begging for housing, begging to stop police violence, begging for the use of public park, begging to assemble in the park, begging to stand on the sidewalk, begging like beggars. Begging not to close Palm Avenue, begging not to run the interstate through our communities, begging like beggars. We're proud people, proud ancestry, but they like to keep us begging. And guess what? There's one word they don't like us to know about. I'm looking at an interview the other day with my favorite rapper, Lil Boosie, and the man asked him about reparations. He did not know what that word means. Ain't never heard of it, begging. So they keep black people confused. They got us confused with Tyler Perry, that we love, Madeira, that they project every African like a faggot, like a homosexual. Each and every African, they project that way. They got us confused with Kobe Bryant. He died in a helicopter. The boy mama and daddy won't have nothing to do with him because he a cracker lover. And he died and went to heaven with a bunch of white folks. And they got us confused about that. All of a sudden we love Kobe Bryant. He ain't never did nothing for black people. And y'all 7 people up there ain't never did nothing for black people. All 7 of y'all ain't never did nothing for black people. Absolutely, positively nothing. And the 7 before y'all ain't did nothing for African people. But got us keep begging and begging and begging and begging. That's what y'all like to see. Y'all like to do us dirty. Y'all been doing us dirty for 600 years. And y'all like to see us keep begging. Africans don't have to beg. We ain't got to come down here and beg y'all for nothing. Absolutely, positively nothing. And y'all love to put us in check. Man, talk about being Jewed down, and they say, what's Sandy Freeman got to say about it? What's Sandy Freeman and her old nasty, crooked husband, what them Jews had to say when they was destroying our communities, talking about gang banging and crack houses, and stealing the whole community?
they wasn't putting themselves in check. And people use the N-word, the nigger word, 24/7. And don't nobody put them in check. But you can't talk about the other people. Snoop trying to put Gayle King in check for talking about Kobe Bryant. I'm going to send somebody to get you. He ain't sent nobody to get Donald Trump, who called all African athletes sons of bitches. That's calling African queens bitches. Or this mayor who called for the hanging of a young black man, the lynching. Begging. Black people got to stop begging. The word is reparations.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening, Johnny Johnson. I would like to ask you guys on the diocese, this year is 2020, what's your vision? What's your soul searching? Can we have any clarity for our inner city communities, such as Fair Oaks? Of course, Fair Oaks, it has been other city councils, but it ain't them here now. We have you guys here. We demand that Fair Oaks be rebuilt. I'm a co-host of What's Really Happening. We got it out to the people in the streets. The people came out and voiced their opinion and their voices about what they want in their communities. You guys work for the constituents. All we asking and demanding is that you do your job and listen to the people. Every other CRA in every other neighborhood is growing and striving. Over in East Tampa, again, we got a lot of retail space up on 22nd Hillsborough area need to be utilized in a more professional way that benefits the communities and allow it to grow. The streets, again, it's saddening that the Super Bowl is coming and y'all beautifying everything around East Tampa. If you go just on the outskirts of East Tampa, everything's beautiful. Down Tampa Street, down Tampa and Osborne, you done put new bike lanes with lighted electric lights, street streams down it. But you go down Hillsborough to 22nd, you're going to tear your car up, your bicycle, break your ankle. But you just go over the hill to 50th Street, right past East Lake Mall, and it's beautiful. It's smooth, new paved streets all up to I-4 going into 75. What I'm saying is, y'all doing things for visitors that's coming to town. What about the people that live here? I'm a native, born and raised here, downtown Tampa. Them streets the same. Y'all ain't coming through doing nothing. Again, we're a taxpayer. Again, taxation without representation. It's a sad song, but it's been sung for over generations, as long as I've been alive. So all of y'all, I'm asking, what is your vision? The best vision is 2020. All of our vision is obscure. We need to remove the blur, the cataracts, or whatever over our eyes, and you're hard to see that human beings. Stop looking at color and raciality. We're a human being. We deserve better streets, better sidewalks, better attention to our neighborhoods. We all up under one umbrella, which is Hillsborough County. It's sad that you have to go out to certain places to realize and get proper, adequate things for human beings. But when you come down in our neighborhood, there's no attention paid to it. And some of you guys been over there. You wouldn't allow your kids, your loved one, to go in none of these facilities. Now check your heart and check your eyes.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hey there, Shane Regal, representing Tampa Heights Civic Association as president. I wanted to come to speak to you before about the FDOT project and the presentation you're about to receive. I was going to talk about a bunch of things. You know, Tampa Heights is a historic neighborhood. We border 275 on two sides. But after hearing a bunch of people talk, I really think it's important that we talk about values and what the function of government is to do and what it can actually do. Government is able to express the values of the neighborhood, and it is almost a social experiment where you can encourage certain things to happen by the laws you pass. You can encourage a business or homes or affordable housing to be put into neighborhoods by passing certain laws, but you can also let things like the expansion of the interstate go through if you forget what the values are. 50, 60 years ago, the city of Tampa said, you know what, the values are not towards our urban core. The values are towards getting people through those neighborhoods faster. And that's what this is continuing to do. This knot was tied, and the answer to fixing this knot is to keep on tying it up. Now, I heard the gentleman say that we need to get people to schools and to hospitals faster. We used to have that. Tampa Heights had a hospital in the neighborhood. We had schools in the neighborhood that were all torn out because the interstate had to come through. So now what we're looking at is how do we correct what's wrong? Now we're saying that we have so many people moving to Tampa, we need to make sure that we're moving people aplenty. But if we keep on building roads, people are going to move to Tampa that think that cars are the only way to get around. And eventually we're going to run out of space. So what we need to tell them is that yes, we have roads. You can get through Tampa in 30 to 40 minutes. How many cities that are developing that you can actually get across the entire city, north to south, in 30 minutes? What we need to tell them is that we're also going to be a transit city. That if you want to get through efficiently, try to figure out some form of public transit to get through. That type of friction that makes it a little bit harder to just jump in your car to go a couple blocks down the road encourages our neighborhoods to get grocery stores put inside of them. Encourages us to look at where the schools are being built. Now, I live in Tampa Heights. I live 5 houses down from the interstate. The worst air quality in Tampa. So what we say is, you know what? It's more important for somebody to get from Wesley Chapel down to Gandy than it is for somebody to be able to breathe in our neighborhoods. I have the benefit of also working off the Veterans, the second worst place for air quality in Tampa. Now, when the neighborhoods were put in place, they had a valuable grid. That was probably the most valuable thing that we had in our neighborhood, was the ability to get through our historic roads easily, and the interstate came through and interrupted it. And what we're saying is, you know what? Let's just keep on doing the way we have done things in the past. Let's ignore what was going to be the future. We'll rely on cars going fast and becoming electric to save our communities from the pollution that's going to be caused. It's not going to happen anytime soon. We need to make sure that we're protecting our values, and we're doing so with our laws.
Thank you very much. Next.
I'm technologically deficient here. Is this all that needs to happen to make this show up on the screen? That do it? Yeah. Rick Fernandez, 2906 North Elmore Avenue, Tampa 33602. That's Tampa Heights. I stand here as a representative of the Civic Association, as chair of the Transportation Committee. For starters, I want to associate myself with the comments you just heard from our president. I couldn't have said any of that any better, and I'm not even going to try to repeat or underscore. The Civic Association has stood opposed to the Tampa Bay Express project, evidence my pen, since 2015, and it stands opposed to the Tampa Bay Next project as TBX morphed into that brand in 2017, I believe it was. The reason we oppose both is that they are both essentially the same. TBX was presented to you and to County Commission and to the MPO as an all or nothing proposition with several sections, but we had to take or leave it all. Tampa Bay Next was then rolled out as a process through which the FDOT folks were going to talk to the communities and engage us in ways they had not previously. And no longer was it an all or nothing proposition. Everything was up for grabs, and oh yes, we're going to study the entire footprint through an SEIS process, Supplemental Environmental Impact Study. Now here we are, 5 years on, about to go to the 6th MPO meeting to review a TIP in June, and we're still talking about the same things. If you look at TBX as presented in 2015 and Tampa Bay Next as presented and envisioned currently in front of you, and look at them section by section, they're essentially the same. You still have expansion of the interstate through the urban core, and you still have toll roads through the urban core. Every single one of you that stood for election last cycle said you were opposed to expansion of the interstate through the urban core. It was hard to find anybody that thought express toll lanes were a good idea anywhere. Yet here we are still discussing the same thing. It's the worst nightmare of Groundhog Day. So sooner or later, somebody has to stick something in the ground and state, no more. Now, we've had historically support from this body in opposition to the TBX project. The CRA back in 2015, 2016 opposed it. The headline that I had up here a moment ago
and that I'll read. Tampa Council again opposes Tampa Bay Express interstate expansion. That was an article that appeared in June of 2016, just before the MPO tip hearing. I'm looking for that headline again. I want to give Charlie Frago a reason to write that headline. And it's time for this CRA in this incarnation to put a stake in the ground and tell FDOT what the community's values are. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good morning. My name is Melvin Hicks. Yeah. I'd like to address something. I observe a lot around the city. I really do. I see money being wasted of people, city employees, like the engineers and stuff like that. I see money being wasted about y'all calling people out to fix stuff when y'all have people work for the city, engineers, stuff like that, that could do the job efficiently. Y'all have people, I noticed this like a week ago, y'all have wasted money with the city, like McMillan contract to fix a water problem with the parks. Y'all have people in place, y'all hired them already, engineers for that already. Why are y'all hiring people, outsourcing contractors like that? Y'all wasting the city's money. I see that right now. I see that all go along right there. And I observe a lot around the city. I observe y'all councilman and all. I observe a lot downtown and stuff like that. I work for the Siam restaurant. I have a full-time job there. I'm homeless. But I see everything goes on around the city. I see that nothing's getting done here. I see that nothing's getting done. I see there's like a whole lot of promises and stuff like that, but there's nothing getting done. I see that it's three people was on the city council since last year, and nothing still hasn't gotten done. I see a whole lot of promises and stuff like that. I see our downtown crime rate is up there, but the numbers are down. I see that. I see that the free meals for the city employees, for the cops and stuff like that. That need to stop. All that needs to stop. All the outsourcing, the contractors coming in, fixing the city problems, stuff like that. Y'all got city people y'all hired in place for that already. Y'all wasting the money. I mean, what y'all doing with the money? Y'all outsourcing to different people, like Borough, on Nebraska right there. They do all the signs, stuff like that. Y'all got trucks like that for the city to do that right there. Why y'all contract them out there? Y'all wasting money for the city, taxpayers' money, and it's wrong. I mean, y'all want to waste y'all money, would y'all? And the crime rate downtown, y'all need to tighten up on that too, man. Somebody lying. Somebody lying about that. People getting robbed and stuff like that, crack smoking downtown, people smoking crack in public. All the cops doing is riding by, messing with the homeless. Y'all priorities are in the wrong place right now. It is in the wrong place. I observe a lot, even got pictures and stuff like that, photos of everything, stuff like that. And I try to talk to y'all city councilman, only one man talked to him right there, the young one right there. He talked to me and listen, the rest of y'all just run from me. But y'all supposed to be our body of officials and stuff like that. But you know, like, stuff gotta change in order for Tampa to grow. Stuff gotta change. You can't beat the beating horse. This is a beating horse right now. Y'all keep on doing it, everything. Ain't nothing really gonna change. Y'all listen to us, but nothing gonna change.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good morning. My name is Doug Jessup, 6007 Sewanee Avenue, speaking on behalf of the Old Seminole Heights Neighborhood Association. I'm here to urge the City Council to reject FDOT's preposterous Tampa Bay Next initiative. In particular, I wish to make clear that FDOT's plans for expanding interstate capacity will provide no economic benefit to the CRAs, nor are they likely to reduce traffic congestion. On the contrary, FDOT seeks to impose further burdens on neighborhoods that it has ruthlessly victimized for decades. We should start by asking why Tampa's interstates follow the alignment that they do. As initially conceived, the American interstate system was modeled on the German Autobahn and was intended to link urban areas with no thought of putting a freeway through the heart of a city. However, the white segregationists who held political power in Florida in the 1950s and 1960s realized that interstates were effective tools for inflicting economic damage on non-white communities. For instance, the original concept for I-275 was to route it around the city center, passing more or less along Bears Avenue and following the alignment of the current Veterans Expressway. But enacting that plan would have involved taking property from white citrus farmers in northern Hillsborough County, which was unthinkable. The Florida Road Development Board, as it was then known, chose to send I-275 through the heart of Black and Latino Tampa, obliterating homes and businesses in a conscious effort to inflict maximum damage on those people while promoting the development of all-white suburbs. To put it bluntly, the Tampa interstate system is an exercise in racist oppression. Expanding the system celebrates, endorses, and seeks to carry on that appalling legacy. It is neither my belief nor my contention that those who currently favor interstate expansion are themselves racists. However, the burden is on them to show how and why expanding this system does not amount to further pursuing the destructive plans cooked up by bigots in the 1960s. Now, I suppose someone might concede that Tampa's interstates were designed by racists to promote a white supremacist agenda, but they might nevertheless say something like this: hey, that was then, we're sorry about it, but we have to deal with the system as it is now, and population increases demand an expanded interstate, or something like that. This reasoning, however, ignores the fact that the harm done is not a one-time event located in the distant past. Every day that goes by, the same damage is done day upon day to everyone who was damaged initially by the construction of the interstates. All right? The reason the CRAs are located by the interstate is that the interstate was designed with the express intent of destroying neighborhoods, and TBX seeks to inflict more of the same damage. The only way to alleviate that damage is at least to stop expanding the interstate system and to look at alternatives. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Valerie Bulla. I'm a resident and a homeowner of East Tampa. I stayed at 2909 East 24th Avenue. In 2008, I bought my second house in East Tampa. And my neighbors, they bought their land in the late 60s, and they built their homes there. And they still live in their homes. And lately, East Tampa have been a forgotten community. We have no representation from the homeowners who live over there. And I'm asking that you all do something so that we may have a seat at the table. We are the ones who work hard, who have some skin in the game. We are the homeowners over there. We don't need outsiders telling us how to maintain a home. No one helped us to buy our homes. And we really would like to be represented a little better. And I hear a lot of talk about the roundabout. Start that in another neighborhood. Don't start it in East Tampa. Let's work on Fair Oaks Community Center for the same people who bought the homes in the 60s and the 70s so that they can have a gathering place. I'm not asking for a tennis court or a swimming thing like they have in West Chase. We want a basic community center. And we need to be heard in East Tampa. We've been overlooked so much, and it needs to stop. And I just hope and pray that you all consider putting some of the East Tampa residents on the board. We don't want to be the advisory committee. We want to sit on the board at the table, making the rules that affect us in our community. Thank you all very much for hearing me.
Next, please.
Good morning. My name is Sam Harris. I'm a real estate broker, opportunity zone advisor. I've been here before this board before. About 8 months ago, I invited all of you to come to an opportunity zone gathering at USF. None of you showed up. Tampa Black communities are on life support. We need a major change and a major shift in how you operate and how you think. Opportunity zones is the game changer to allow us to create development that is meaningful and that allow people of color, Black people particularly, to have ownership within those communities. I was over at Tampa Armature Works last Friday with an investor meeting. When I looked out in the gaze of the night, I saw spotlights lighting up Tampa Heights, which used to be owned by all African Americans. When I looked over to West Tampa was blighted, it was dark, there was no light. When I look over to East Tampa was dark. It was like a ghost town where I was standing at. That is not right. You guys got to do something to make change and development here in the city of Tampa. When you look at downtown Tampa, Jeff Vinnick owns the freaking downtown. Yeah. But he's not putting any money into East Tampa. He not putting no money into West Tampa, and I'm not saying it's his responsibility. What I'm saying is that give us, as black businessmen and women, the tools that you're giving to nonprofit organizations that are squandering the money, and that we can do some real meaningful development. We have 3 real estate brokerages that are black owned. No one in the city of Tampa has come to them and says, what can we do to help shape the development in East Tampa, in Grant Park, in Progress Village, in West Tampa? Those are historical black communities that are being decimated, not just in Tampa, but all over. If you look at the highway system that the gentleman was just talking about, that is called redlining. The communities are still redlined. If you take the Opportunity Zone map and you take the redline map, it is exactly identical. For anybody to be laid back with their hand on their chest or their feet kicked up, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You got to get to work, get on the ground and do something.
All right, now.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good morning, council members, Chairman Citro. My name is Fran Costantino, and I'm a resident, business and property owner in historic East Ybor City. I'm here to speak in opposition to number 5, the FDOT project. The people have come up here and talked about it and are referring back to 2015, 2016. Well, I guess I'm old enough and dating myself, but this project by another name has been around for 20 years. And there's probably one person on that dais, who I won't call him out as being guilty, that's old enough to remember 20 years ago when this was brought before us. In the plans 20 years ago, they wanted to do away with the 21st and 22nd Street ingress and egress to Ybor City. I was part of the contingency that was led by Adela Gunsmart, who is a matriarch, and she loved Ybor City. She was joined by Mary Alvers, who was then a city councilwoman. She had the support of the Ybor City Museum Society, the Ybor City Chamber, and a lot of us that came to help her speak. And we were told at the time, don't worry, this project is in the future, it's in our 20-year plan, and their buzzwords at the time were, it's not even funded. Well, you know what? The 20 years is here, the future is now, it is funded, and I come here in representing, I live and work everything in historic East Ybor. But what that would do, with all the plans that they have for East Ybor, is gonna just kill it. So I want y'all to please do what you can to help stop the project. They can call it any other name, TBT, next, whatever. It is exactly the same project, and we do not want historic East Ybor touched by this project. Thank you so much.
Good morning, Josh Frank. I just moved into Old Seminole Heights, so I don't have the address memorized yet, but we're on East Hamilton, 1003 East Hamilton. So I had a lot written. You guys have seen my presentation about removing the interstate and how the interstate is this major divisive piece of our legacy and our history for all our communities. But everything I've written down has been said already. And to me, that's incredible, because when we first started talking about this project in the 90s and even in the 2015, 2016 era, there wasn't the same level of education. And I'm spending my first 30 seconds to just say how proud I am of all of our community members who have educated themselves on this issue and had an informed, enlightened discussion in front of you about the history, the impacts. These are things that not everybody knows or can perceive. And so for me, as somebody who is well steeped in this topic, it's an incredible thing to see the community come before a CRA board, not even a city council meeting, and talk to you about those impacts. So I really feel that you should value that input, maybe even higher than some of the others you receive. So I know you're going to hear a lot about the impacts of the CRAs later today, and I just kind of want to give you a primer of what that impact is going to be and what it's not going to be. Somebody mentioned before that the blight is the reason for the CRAs. That blight is in large part due to the interstate being built in the first place. That's a contributing factor to why the CRAs even exist. And really, at the moment, there's a lot of unknowns about the impacts within those CRAs, specifically within Tampa Heights, Downtown River, Arts Neighborhood Association, CBD, those CRA areas. You know, we really don't have an answer about how that's going to impact the streetcar expansion. That's a major project that the city has tackled and is going for federal funding at the moment. We don't know how the interstate expansion is going to impact that. We don't know how it's going to impact things like Perry Harvey Park and Encore, right? A major project that the Housing Authority has invested a ton of time and money into. We don't know how in the Ybor CRA it's going to affect the cycle track, which is another alternative that this city has put a lot of attention and effort towards building. We don't know how it's going to impact HCC's campus with the amount of students that are walking to and from the parking garages on Palm and Nucio. Right now the proposal has 14th and 15th and Nucio being a new exit for the interstate. How are those students going to be walking to their campus? How are they going to be biking to their campus? I would ask you again, like I did last time when I gave my presentation, every project that comes before this board, we are at a point where we need to start asking ourselves, what is this project doing to remove cars from our system? You cannot outbuild congestion. The only way to reduce congestion is to have fewer cars on the road. And the way you do that is alternatives. It's land use, it's transit, it's all these things. So the last thing I was going to say is that, our efforts, the community's efforts, have gained national attention. What you're going to see in item number 5 has not. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good morning, Noreen Copeland Miller. And this morning I'm here to talk about a couple of things, but I'm bringing this book about This is East Tampa. And this book was written by former appointed city councilwoman, Ms. Betty Wiggins, who's no longer with us. Some of you may remember her, some may not. But I want to read what's in here. Establishment of the CRA Community Revitalization Agency in East Tampa by the city in 2004. The East Tampa CRA area encompasses 7 square miles. This area is home to 9 neighborhood associations and approximately 20,000 citizens. It is situated within the area through the CRA mechanism. A level of tax dollars from the area must be spent within the community. The community, through the East Tampa Community Revitalization Partnership, recommends expenditures and the city make the final decision. We know that doesn't happen. Some of the things that she was pointed out was the CRA should have a stronger governmental commitment, stronger law enforcement presence. We do have that. Improvement in housing. Stock, no. Decrease in crime. Dramatic decline in street level drug activity. Strong political involvement. Reverse the trend of migration out of the community. That's not happening. As a matter of fact, that's increasing. Excellent public recreation facilities and programs. We don't have that, and that's why we're here asking for Fair Oaks to be rebuilt, because this was 10 years ago. Excellent public recreation facilities. We don't have that in East Tampa. Continuation of the public schools, and I won't even talk about that. I want to go and say that I attended a meeting on February the 4th for the economic development for the CRA partnership in East Tampa at District 3. All that information that was presented there was supposed to be brought back to the partnership meeting on February the 11th, and I attended that meeting. At that time, on the agenda was several things that we were not told at the meeting on the 4th. One of those was FDOT presentation that we still say no about, and where they want to close 21st and have 14th and 15th accessible. And for those who haven't been on 15th Street lately, it's already congestion. Going north, it's congestion going south, and it's destroying our community. The other one is Fair Oaks. We want it torn down and rebuilt. One of the things that the CRA partnership, I thought, would listen to the community and value what we say. They're not listening to the community. I live in Southeast Seminole. I've been over there almost 30 years. And it doesn't matter what we want. We have a dictatorship of a chairperson that take minutes and design the minutes for the way she wanted to be told.
Thank you very much.
That is not best practice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.
Next, please.
Good morning. I'm Bishop Michelle B. Patti. I'm also the host of What's Really Happening that comes on every Saturday morning, WTMP 1150 a.m. And I point that out because the community, if you listen, they have spoken with a loud, clear voice that they want Fair Oaks turned down. The problem with the CRA in East Tampa is the leadership. Miss Natasha Goodley, who has no relationship with this community. She come from God knows where, and therefore she don't know who's who in the community. That's why she didn't realize that 150 to 200 people, they were not bussed in. They were residents. There were people such as Fred Hearns, who is a black historian, who has a relationship with East Tampa, with Fair Oaks. You also had Yvette Lewis, who is the president of the NAACP, who swung on the swing there at Fair Oaks. You had Mr. Henry Shake Washington, whose name is on Militant Auditorium building, who not only played basketball there at Fair Oaks, but he also taught and coached there. So we also have people such as Reverend Willie Dixon, who was at the meeting. But if you're not familiar with the community, then you say outrageous and outlandish things that Miss Natasha Goodley has been saying. In this community, it's not one man trying to leave a legacy. We want Fair Oaks torn down. Your staff said that Fair Oaks has been brought up time and time again, and it has been pushed back. We have the data from the community that has spoken loud and clear. Where is the data from that they want this multicultural center? There is no data. There's a one-man, one-woman show that is trying to get this done. So what you all need to understand, that I know that you took it off the burner for now. You're supposed to bring it back next month. We're not going away. We're not going to get cold. We're not going to forget about it. And the NFL talking about bringing the Super Bowl here, they need to know that you all are keeping way where children can even learn how to play football. Children need to be able to have a safe environment. We need to have a modern place where we have Wi-Fi, where children can do their homework, can do whatever they want to do, and we're not getting that. And it's appalling, because I see your faces. It's like, while they're here, let's not even have public comments if you're not really interested in doing the people's will. You're wasting my time, their time, and your time. Because if you're not going to do the will of the people, there's no sense of you all looking at us like we have a problem.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, good morning. My name is Laurel Alania. I'm a resident of the North Ybor neighborhood. I live in Tampa. 33605 is my zip code. I'm speaking as a small business owner, and my background is in environmental engineering. But before I get into my spiel, I'm speaking extemporaneously, so forgive me. I'd like to first thank the ladies and the gentlemen who have come here and spoken their voice, because the way democracy works is our voice counts just as much as any lobbyist, any CEO, or any partnership president. Our voice counts. So thank you. Thank you for speaking your power and your truth. I'm speaking today specifically, though, to oppose item number 5, which is the FDOT project. The reason I'm speaking in opposition of this is because if you haven't been privy to the latest headlines, we have 11 years left on the clock to mitigate the disasters of climate impacts, okay? Climate change is real. NASA has confirmed this. The NOAA has confirmed this. And believe it or not, oil executives are actually changing their infrastructure because sea level rise is going to happen, okay? And one of the fallacies that I'd like to correct here is that the velocity of cars has nothing to do with emissions. Emissions has everything to do with the amount of generation. So the emissions of particulates and things that impair our ability to breathe has everything to do with the amount of cars that we have on the highway. If we move them faster, it doesn't matter. So I could go into like plume modeling and dispersion models all day long. I'm not going to, but I'm just going to say the point that the main goal should be to reduce the amount of cars. The more that you widen highways, it's called induced demand, the more cars you put on the highways. That is not a solution. Other cities have figured this out for decades, and we should be able to figure it out too. finally, with my remaining time, I just want to speak to the fact that I live in North Ybor neighborhood, a neighborhood that has been torn apart by the highway. We used to have a corner store. We used to have like a very strong community there, which is mostly a community of black and brown people, people that are poor, people that have been historically marginalized and not have had a voice and are having a voice today. They're speaking up today, and they deserve to be heard just as much as any partnership, just as much as any automobile lobby or the FDOT machine that's continually thrusting highways upon us. And I want to just conclude with a story that actually just happened recently. One of the ladies here mentioned that 15th Street, where they're proposing to put in a ramp to I-4, they actually just had a horrific accident there. There's a school, it's Academy Prep, and it's a school to mostly black and brown kids that are poor, right? The kids that don't have a voice. Let me show you. This car just barreled into, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it barreled into the entrance to Academy Prep. And thank God there was not a kid there. But we can't ignore these kids anymore. You have to listen to the will of the constituents, not the lobbyists, not the CEOs, not the presidents of the partnerships, and stop widening the highways. Thank you.
All right, man. Thank you. Next, please.
First, Councilman Citro, what I'm about to say concerning the FDOT proposal, I may run over a little 3 minutes, and I respectfully request an additional minute if needed.
How's about, we got that. Everybody, excuse me, all members in favor of that? Aye. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Council. Dear City Council, first, I want to thank each of you for taking the time to listen to the YCDC as well as these other great people regarding the FDOT proposal. YCDC, as we know, is comprised of 2 CRAs, and one of which I was the past president and chairman of the YCDC. I would like to state anecdotally for the record, though, that I did promise Councilman Goods by the third time I would get your last name correct. So this does make the third time, and I just wanted to make that point known. My name is Grant Connor Malik. I'm a resident of the historic Ybor district. I am the immediate past chairman of the YCDC. I have been a part in the prestigious board for the past 8 years. As some of you know, my heart, my passion, my business, and my life are in Ybor City. I've been there since 2005, and what I have seen occurred due to your leadership is absolutely incredible. Ybor City is truly going through a renaissance. Starting around 2006 is really when things changed. Collectively, a group of young professionals and residents came together and laid down a vision for Ybor City. Year by year, we worked hand in hand to attract businesses, change our culture from a party district, and essentially lay down the foundation for a renaissance and redevelopment of Ybor to occur. Today, I am proud to report that all sorts of businesses are flourishing in our historic district, from boutique shops to multifamily developments, law firms, high-end restaurants, and major corporate businesses now reside in Ybor City. You would have not have seen that 10 years ago. The best part that I've seen, and this is when I was chairman of Ybor City, and this is when I think we've almost reached the Holy Land per se, is to watch young mothers with their babies in strollers go down 7th Avenue. That to me, that tells me about how much Ybor has changed. When you have young mothers that are comfortable now doing that. With that said, let's discuss FDOT's proposal to create a new Exit 1 off of I-4 down 14th and 15th Avenue and onto Nuccio Parkway, and to use 13th Avenue to gain access to 21st and 22nd. This is a problem. This is actually a huge problem. For starters, let's talk about 13th Avenue. This is a small road. It is actually 12.2 feet wide. How do I know that? Because I went and measured it. Why did I go and measure it? Because it is right behind my apartment community, Bainbridge Apartments. So for FDOT to tell us that they're going to use that road, a collector road, to move people is absolutely absurd. Furthermore, it violates FDOT's own records or rules regarding the width of roads. As for the new exit, ask yourselves this question. Why is there a historic Ybor and a Ybor city? It's because FDOT, one day in 1963, decided to take an interstate and basically turned a community into two. One community has now finally back on their feet, historic Ybor. That second community, East Tampa, it's been 60 years and it is still struggling.
Thank you very much.
And lastly, if I could say one last point, sir.
Quickly?
Yep. This brings me to the last point, and that is the 14th and 15th exit 1 that they want to do. If you look at that map, what FDOT wants to do is, again, bisect and dissect the neighborhood. There is no difference between what has happened with I-4 and what they want to do now, again, with this new exit 1. I implore you, and I almost beg you, to please do not let FDOT's proposal through. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good morning. Thank you for your platform and allowing me to speak. My name is Verlene and I live here in Tampa, born and raised here in Tampa. Roundabouts, we do not need them. Keep them out of our black neighborhood. No more roundabouts. No more roundabouts. I don't see them coming up in the USF area. I don't see them coming up in the white people stuff. I don't see them coming up in the white neighborhood. Leave them out of the black people because all they're doing is causing traffic infractions. Fair Oaks, we need a new building. I used to swing in those playgrounds also. The same oak trees are still there. You cut down one. You close off all the entrance to the park. People cannot come into the park. Why? The building is unsafe. Tell us the truth. We know the truth. I used to be there. West Tampa, it's all gone bye-bye. All gone bye-bye. But the mayor has this committee called Mayor African American Advisory Council. The initials MAAC. But they changed it and gave us the CRA. That's the new version. But I keep telling my people that stands for Colors Ran Away. Because they don't want us there. They coming up with all this new stuff, and like everybody back here saying, it's the same thing. They just changed the name, changed the year, changed the date, same crap.
That's right.
Hillsborough County Health Insurance. I'm picking on my own personal experience. I don't want just pills in my life. I want to sit down with a therapist and talk to her about my problems that I'm having. When I'm not getting any satisfaction or justice, I don't want to go to my pill doctor and talk with. They don't want to hear nothing. They want to know if I can give you a stronger dose, so I can sleep all day, so I don't come here and tell y'all my black people problem. So today I'm asking for Hillsborough County Health Insurance. Give us some therapy. I don't have money for therapy. I'm on a fixed income. That means it's once a month. I got to pay the rent, the light, the water, a bus transportation, because that's how I travel. See y'all, every time I come down here, it's on the bus. And I will come every chance I can until we, black people, colored people, the N-word people, until we get a change, because we need a change. And that little mayor board she got going on, that MACC, and this CRA, and these all them people, we was taking care of ourselves before all of this stuff came around. Just give us our money. We watching your money, because it's our money. We're going to come with transparency and accountability. As a former military spouse, I've traveled around the world, and I've seen the changes here in Hillsborough County that makes me sick.
Oh, yeah.
It's bad. And it's not for now one of people look like me. Because if it was, none of us would be in here begging every Thursday, every Wednesday, every day. We'll be sitting at home with a peaceful mind coming down here to tell you how we appreciate it, we thank everybody what we're doing. But it ain't working like that.
Thank you very much.
For my people. And I thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Before Ms. Burton starts to speak, sir, are you the last speaker?
Yes, I am.
Oh, and Joe Robinson.
I'm old, so I have to sit down.
I understand. Go ahead, Ms. Burton.
Yes, good morning, Connie Burton. You know, once upon a time, thriving black community. Once upon a time, you know, in history, like now, looking back, we can now identify those that we can say was racist, that did terrible things against the people. We say that. But I always say that there are those that are walking in the same footstep of those that we identified as racist. Now, we're talking about item number 5, and everybody has made it clear. While they're talking about expanding on 13 and 14, let's talk about why 34th and 40th Street is an economic isolation. That even when you're putting beautiful roundabouts, can't nobody see it. Can't no business grow down there. You know why? Because the traffic keep on going. All deliberately planned. All deliberately planned to tear up Central Avenue. All deliberately planned that we find ourselves in the same situation. Talking about once upon a time what we had. And it don't matter. It don't matter if they have African consultants with them. It do not matter to us because we know they don't represent us. They represent their own personal pockets. That's what's happening in our community. Just found out the other day that there is a secret society of black folks that's supposed to be advising the mayor. For 40 years, if they had been telling and articulating our issues, we wouldn't have seen this rampant gentrification. How do it happen? How do it happen that we have a CRA that for 15 years have utilized CRA money to build a police substation in East Tampa, and when the people say we want a park, it's not feasible. Even the CRA is prepared to tell you this morning that they want the mayor to tell the mayor to fix the problem. After the fact that there is no minutes to support L. Barnes Park. None. And I hope y'all don't get caught up in it because we are not going to go away. Nope. Here, the Economic Development Committee has 12 meetings. I'm going to leave them here so you can see them. 12 meetings a month, only 4 meetings where there's any participation. The meetings is not even conducive to the time that the people could participate. And so y'all can call it name calling. Y'all can say we bullying folks. No. We're fighting for the soul of our community right now. We're fighting to make sure that the next generation of black young children will say that there was those in our community that had dignity. We had enough courage to come down here and let you know what it's going to be like. It ain't going to be no peace moving forward for none of you all. None of you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen. I'm here to discuss, my name, by the way, is Dave Arania, PE. I'm a licensed professional engineer here in the state of Florida, operating under the name Banneker LLC. I'm a sole owner of that engineering firm. My wheelhouse is real estate development. But I have, in the 10, 11 years I've been an engineering practitioner, have spoken to a lot of transportation gods, and I will name drop Jack King, Frank Dominguez, Sandra Gorman, all of them. The engineering community is alike on the subject of roadway widening, interstate or otherwise. It does net zero for level of service capacity analysis. If you want to improve your level of service, to Josh Frank's point, you need to implement more alternatives. Make choice, a matter of choice. There are engineers and scientists at MIT, a program that I applied to, I got rejected from, but MIT is trying to model
choice down to region, by ethnicity, by you name it. So choice is really what we have to go after here, and providing transportation alternatives is the key. The roadway widening does net zero. It'll improve it for a little bit, but on the life cycle cost of a roadway project, 5 to 10 years and so on, you're throwing money down the drain, and it's a boondoggle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rosanna Daniel. I'd like to give my speaking time to Tony Daniel.
I'm sorry that we cannot do that.
Why y'all keep changing that from time to time? The last time you say you can give 1 minute, the last time you say you can give 3 minutes.
No,
So what's the official?
Each person has 3 minutes.
You say you can yield your time. You said 1 minute the last time. You said the time before that, when all the white people was here, you said 3 minutes. And then you gave the white guy about 9 or 12 minutes.
That's in rezonings.
You gave the white guy about 9 or 12 minutes.
That's during
So I would like to use 1 minute.
No, that was
not
during
in
public
CRA.
speaking.
Not in public speaking.
That was public speaking, when the white guy said he wanted to.
Mr. Daniels, we granted him an extra minute. If she would like to speak for herself, she can. You have had your 3 minutes.
So I can't yield my even 1 minute?
You can speak for yourself, yes, ma'am.
Just go ahead and talk about the roadway block.
Is there anybody else, Mr. Robinson?
Oh, man. Ooh, boy. Well, let me just say that Joe Robinson, West Tampa CRA chair and business owner, and the only person in the room that stayed before the interstate in 1958 on Orange and K Street and was displaced by the interstate. Moved in the Scagoni house in 62 in West Tampa. That's why I tell people from Simpson Park, not from West Tampa, but I'm from West Tampa now. I'm not going to go there. I'm going to just say this. FDOT came and gave that presentation. The issue we got is noise and pollution in West Tampa. And they're telling us we can't get an exit, Mr. Citro, for historical preservation. And I think it's a race issue. Now, don't have me have to call the feds to say we can't get our sign, say we're historical district like Ybor City, because we are black historical district. Black. Somewhat Hispanic, but black historical district in the core of the CRA. Ybor City Hispanic, they got their signs. They're telling us we can't get it because of whatever. Well, the impact is environmentally, noise and pollution. Give us our historical sign, man. Come on. All hell gonna break loose. These people, I'm telling you, ain't gonna be no Super Bowl without no unrest if you don't get all this stuff straight. It will not be in it. It will be unrestful for the city if they don't get this straight. It's gonna be like when they didn't have any blacks in the cruise. I'm gonna leave that one alone. So that's the issue on FDOT. Community benefit ordinance, Mr. Goods. We need that. Over in St. Pete, they use a community benefit on all CRA projects. They have a committee to review every project for community benefits. They're ahead of us on that. So let's keep moving that. Opportunity zones. We got to go get some senators, Mr. Lee and Mr. Cory Booker, supposedly to put a bill in Congress to get all of the census tracts in West Tampa to be opportunity zones. They didn't even include the one that west of Rome. And the real reason I'm here is that our committee was disrespected by the administration again. Now we give you 3 chances in West Tampa, Charlie, 3 strikes and you out. They got disrespected yesterday, y'all at the meeting. They telling me, why you the chair of West Tampa, you ain't at the damn meeting with the map. I ain't never got notice. So they apologized to me. We're going to have lunch next week to talk about it. But it was disrespectful to 9 community agencies represented on the CRA Citizen Advisory Committee that we got no notice of this sitting in our backyard. They want to come over there and talk about 18 acres. The same damn thing, excuse my expression, happened with Bob McDonough, who had to bring Channel 10. I got to bring Channel 10 to 28 to get some straightening. We give you 3 strikes, Charlie, and you're out. That's 1 strike. So we got 2 more with the city administration. But I love them. The man doing the right thing. Okay? Fair Oaks. I don't want to have receipt and file. I got a copy for the fire marshal. Said he went over there and wasn't nothing wrong. So, he said they don't use a spring because it exists in assembly. Okay, that's fine. But as an engineer, you need to really get a new center and do a temporary fix on that. And the last thing I say is this, with my 30-second run over Mr. Child, is that, come on, man, you heard these people. I don't want to get involved with having to start the riot at the Super Bowl and to start bashing it.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Is there any other people here for public comment? Seeing none, agenda item number 5 is now moved to number 1. FDOT, this is your time.
Thank you. Good morning. Thanks for letting us talk to you today. I'm Marshall Hampton, the program manager for Tampa Bay Next. I've spoken to you at the last 2 meetings, last time we've been here, last 2 times. All right, we'll do. Today we're going to talk about the locally preferred alternative. This is where we are in the process of our NEPA process. So we have, we're going to a public hearing later this month. The next slide will show where the locations are. We began the SEIS, or the Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement, back in January. Had 2 workshops, and now we had FHWA review in January and also sign off on our draft SEIS. So, I need to go to the next slide, please. All right, while we're waiting, okay. We have 2 public hearings. Oh, we just went, thank you. Cool.
Aim it at the computer on the podium.
Yes, ma'am. 2 public hearings, one in the West Shore area at the HEC Del Mabry campus, and the other one at the Port Tampa Bay Terminal 6. First one would be at February 25th, and the other one at 27th, both starting at 5 o'clock, with the formal presentation starting at 6. So for the locally preferred alternative, this is the overall map of the Tampa Interstate Study. Segments 1A, 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B, and 3C. 3C we already built with the connector project, the I-4 connector project. So the West Shore Area Interchange project that we talked about last time, this is a commitment from Governor DeSantis for $1.4 billion to be built in fiscal year 24. It's to reconstruct the West Shore State Road 60 interchange, also provide some local connectivity that was requested by the city. So we preserve an envelope for premium transit, so if the community wants light rail in the future or premium bus, we have that available, as well as direct connections from the Howard Franklin Bridge up to the Veterans, to Tampa National Airport, Courtney Kimball Causeway, and also in downtown Tampa. So local connectivity we talked about. So we have a new underpass at Occident and Trash to relieve the pressure on West Shore itself. We have a new interchange at Rio Street. So we're moving the frontage road away from State Road 60 and onto to Rio Street. And then also have a direct connect express lane to Himes Avenue. Access to and from downtown Tampa, we have direct connects into downtown and out of downtown Tampa. We've been working with the city as to where the roads will go into it, because we're trying. The city has been actively trying to reconnect their grid. So we're working with the city on where these will land. We're also building a new bridge just north of the Hillsborough River, so when you come on to 275 southbound, you don't have to immediately get into the general use lanes. You'll kind of bleed them out, and it helps with the mixing of traffic. Next, I'm going to show a video of the downtown interchange.
We all want safer roadways and a better transportation system. Well, the Florida Department of Transportation is looking for ways to help. Our roads and corridors are congested. Traffic, it's not getting any better. Heck, people are even cutting through neighborhoods just to get places faster. Can you imagine what this is going to be like with more and more people moving here every year? I sure can't. Does this look familiar? Ever been caught in traffic in the I-275, I-4 interchange in downtown Tampa? You know, good old malfunction junction. In 2012, there were over 500 crashes in the I-275, I-4 interchange. Fast forward to 2016, and it's doubled to over 1,000 crashes. We all want to arrive safely. FDOT's been looking at how to make that junction function through a study called the Tampa Interstate Study Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement. That is a mouthful, and it's just one piece of the transportation puzzle.
They had a plan, a big plan, and they shared it with the community. And they found out the community wanted something different, a plan with less neighborhood impacts requiring less property. So they got busy creating new plans, keeping what they heard in mind.
FDOT has been in the community, they've been at events and meetings, giving presentations, looking at ways to make your commute better and safer. Wouldn't it be nice if this could change? Well, there's a plan.
And it's the locally preferred alternative, improving traffic flow and safety, but with fewer impacts to local communities. A real balancing act.
Today, drivers stack up along I-275 waiting to exit to I-4, while others wait until the last minute, diving across traffic to their exit. Good old lane divers, you know? It's chaos. No wonder there are so many crashes. Each day, almost 85,000 vehicles travel along southbound I-275, with over 1/3 heading to I-4 in that one lane. Again, the backup each day. What if this exit was 2 lanes instead of 1? So traffic doesn't come to a stop and you could move through faster and safer. What if you weren't cut off and driving was a breeze? Look at how much better it would be with 2 lanes instead of 1. Getting to Ybor City in East Tampa today means going from I-275 to I-4 and then across traffic to an exit. And that is not always easy. How about a new exit to 14th and 15th Streets from I-275 instead of 21st Street from I-4? Imagine no more crossing lanes on I-4 to get to your exit, keeping you safer, and the best part is, these improvements will get you there a whole lot easier. Stuck again on I-4 heading to Tampa? Well, so are close to 90,000 other drivers today, and traffic is at a standstill once again. Want to fix it? So does FDOT. Think of how much better it would be with 2 lanes heading to northbound I-275 towards USF and Busch Gardens instead of just 1. You'll have more time to merge onto I-275, and that sounds great to me. But hey, that's not all. An additional lane through the interchange to I-275 southbound will ease the backup. Getting to downtown Tampa becomes safer too. The ramp to downtown exits will be shifted, so there aren't 3 decisions to make at once. Plus, shoulders will be wider. You're dropped off at the same place in downtown, just like today. We all want safer roadways, quicker travel times, and an improved transportation system. Isn't it time we get this junction to function?
So now we're going to walk through what those 3 movements are. We'll be talking about the 14-15 access and what's remaining at the request of council or the board itself.
Are we not working again?
It is not. I need your touch, Michelle.
Just reminds me of when I was in school. Can we get some AV help in here, please?
I apologize for the delay. Great, we'll keep going. We're gonna get past the video, so we're a couple behind. Keep going. Keep going. Next slide, that one, stop. All right, so the first one is the southbound 275 to I-4 eastbound movement. What the video said, the flyover ramp is now being increased to 2 lanes. We're also adding connectivity to 14th, 15th Street, so modifying the 21st, 22nd off ramp, exit ramp, and moving it to 14th, 15th. This was important because we wanted to add connectivity and also disperse traffic. Before, one of the public comments is that we had 29,000 vehicles moving in 2030, and actually our model is showing 2045, although it's 10 years, it's still not as soon as what was stated. The right-of-way impact for this is 1 vacant parcel. With this, the Floribosca exit will stay intact. So we're keeping the Floribosca exit as voiced from the community before. Next slide, please. So the next one for I-4 westbound to northbound 275, we have a single lane exit that's going to go to 2 lanes. And if you stay in the leftmost lane, you actually be able to take that and not without having to merge over. If you stay in that lane, you can take it all the way up to Hillsborough Avenue. Currently, once you use the exit lane, you have to merge over or you're going to MLK exit. The Floribosca on-ramps remains open, and we at the most expect 10 parcels to be impacted. Next slide. For the downtown Tampa exit and also moving through 275 and downtown interchange, we're relocating or shifting the downtown exit downstream so that you don't have 3 decision points at once. And then we are widening the bridges to give you a shoulder to pull off on. Currently you have nowhere to go if something happens on the bridge itself. So we're giving adequate shoulders for people to move the vehicles if they have to. No right-of-way impacts anticipated this time. Next slide, please. So currently this is the existing 21st, 22nd Street exit. What's being shown is the route to the apartments and also HTC. Both were brought up as points of interest for origin destinations from this exit. Next slide, please. So these are the ramps that are not going to change by the new, our locally preferred alternative. So you still have on the westbound side the exit ramp and on-ramp, and then you have the on-ramp at 21st, 22nd. Next, please. So the new exit now moves it over to 14th, 15th. Now you can get to the HTC parking garages, which will be a shorter distance. You're not having people to go down Palm Avenue to get to the same parking garages. There's a question about pedestrians moving in and out of that off Palm Avenue specifically, and that's one way to take cars off of it, and also for people to get into the apartments. That's one of 3 ways they can get into that apartment complex. Next, please. So we did a quick Google map just to show what it is. So 0.8 miles to get to the quarter. So this was taken at 11 a.m. in the morning, or obviously, but 11 a.m. going down 14th, 15th through 13th Avenue. The 13th Avenue is actually being widened to 2 lanes. And then down 21st, 22nd and into the apartments, 0.8 miles. Next one, please. To do the same on the existing, to go all the way to the parking garage is 1.1 miles, but you have to go, the quickest way for this would be Palm Avenue. So you're going down 21st, 22nd, going west on Palm Avenue and down into the parking garage. Next, please. Instead, you'll be going 0.2 miles, 0.5 miles, depending on which way you enter in at, but or 0.4, and it's a quicker way to get in and out while people are going to and from class. Next, please. So the I-275, we had the PD study approved in the fall. This is no right-of-way take, so everything's within existing right-of-way, and this will be our preferred alternative is shown up in the typical section. Next, please. The transition segment is what we also cleared in fall, last fall. It's the piece that's still in the SEIS, but it's the kind of
improves the mixing zone of trying to get up to 275, up to USF, or up to 75 if that's where you want to go. Next, please. So this is an overlay of what we're going to try. We're going to be building starting next summer, so a year from next summer, or this summer. We're doing a little piece of the transition and then going up to about Hannah Avenue. All within existing right-of-way. Noise barriers are being installed. It's putting a lane in each direction, but we are staying within existing right-of-way. We're also doing some ramp improvements and enhancements to the underpasses. So bike ped facilities, connectivity. Next, please. That's my presentation. I'm sure you have plenty of questions, so please.
Yes, please. Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, Councilman Citro, or Mr. Chairman. A couple of things are of interest. I want to follow up on the 15th Street issue with, I'd heard the nice young lady talk about Academy Prep and the incident that happened there. Has FDOT been in contact with anyone at Academy Prep over that? Any concerns over the changes or anything of that nature?
I can't speak to that, sir.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
know that we have researched the crash history.
Yeah.
And the crash history of Nuccio right now is half of what the average is for the city.
Yeah.
And we haven't had any fatal accidents.
Okay, yeah, I'll Academy Prep have a long history with that school. It's a private school. It's one of the best tools and instruments that we really have in this community for underprivileged kids. Lincoln Tamayo, who I know just went to Lakeland, is one of the best people I know. He's a wonderful individual. So I'll want to follow up on that because that's something that's very, very interesting. You know, when I look at this issue of TB Next, I think there's a couple of things that really have got to be emphasized. Number one, in a public official, a public servant, is number one, education and humility, which is we have to realize that in talking to the community, we're going to change, we're going to progress, we're going to evolve, not because it behooves us as public officials, but because we learned that it behooves and benefits all of the community. I think FDOT has done that. By being compelled, but it's certainly done that, it would appear. Then the other issue is one of leadership, which is after you talk to the community, after you address your positions, et cetera, based on that level of community engagement, you got to take a look at what's good for the community. I think there's a distinction between some of the incremental changes that we're seeing here in TB Next and an overall larger issue, the whale in the room, something that I don't think FDOT is putting enough attention to, which is the need and the desire of the people here in this county and this city for mass transit right here, right now. I think that's a big issue. When you take a look at some of the issues that are here within TB Next, issues like the West Shore Interchange, I know our mayor has spoken very strongly on that $1.4 billion project. Issues like the interchange at I-4 and I-75, something that I take a look at it as a public safety issue. When you have an average of 3 or 4 crashes on that, unless if you're a plaintiff's personal injury attorney, you're going to want to have some movement on that. Not to say that the plaintiff's injury bar wants folks to get injured. Issues like, for example, in Howard Franklin, you had said a comment that I wanted to bring up, which in terms of having a transit envelope available on certain parts, you said if the community wants mass transit, it is available. I would say that question has been answered. It's been answered time and time again. In 2018, it was answered when 57% of the voters in this county supported an initiative that put mass transit right here, right now, in first. And I think in taking a look at that, the MPO that I serve on, my friend and colleague, Councilman Escalco, my friend and colleague, Councilman Citro, serve on as well with me, has also responded to that community not just desire, but frankly outrage. It's an outrage because we live with it every day. We live with it every day. And when we hear about the need to have mass transit alternatives, we know that it affects people. Recently, in taking a look at our long-range transportation plan, the MPO amended it to request, and it was by a motion by our friend and colleague and the county commissioner, Kim Overman, to have the board support HART entering into the competitive process of negotiations with CSX to secure the line for rail. And we also voted unanimously to make that a top priority in our long-range transportation plan. And that came along because during last year's TIP hearing, Mr. Gwynn said, well, if y'all want mass transit, then put it in there. Put it in there. And Commissioner Overman, to her great credit, jumped on that. But again, I want to emphasize something, which is the people in this county, it's not that they're going to want mass transit in the future. I think it's that most of them say that should have been done 20 years ago. We are running behind by decades in this county, and our communities are hurting. Our communities are hurting, and we're putting band-aids on our negligence, I guess, if you will. So later on, I'm going to be making a motion, and I don't know, Mr. Chairman, whenever you want to take motions, but that our body write correspondence to FDOT supporting the vote by the MPO to include, and I'm not making it now, to include use of CSX as a top priority in its county planning, and further that this body requests that FDOT, in listening to the people, the verified will of the people, prioritize mass transit in its tip, including over continued what you can call bandages, you can call it interstate expansion, whatever you may want. But moving forward on that issue, again, I don't think the issue are some of these incremental projects that we see here that I think have a lot of support. The real issue is that we're running away from the elephant in the room, which is putting mass transit right here, right now first. The voters strongly supported that, and if for some reason something goes wrong in that, I think all of us 7 here are going to make sure that the voters support that again in November of this year. So that's something I'll be moving.
Councilman Vieira, let's do this after we've heard from the rest of the board members here. Councilman Dingfelder, Councilman Goods, Councilman Carlson.
I'd like to add a comment to what Councilman Vieira said, if I may. Surely. Well, mass transit, we have a premium transit corridor. It's been established since the TIS, and it remains there. The comment I made is that we have to have a consensus. We also have to have the funding in place to put it in there. We have the corridor, we have the ability to do so in our plans. Now we just need to have a way of implementing that. Yes, sir, thank you.
Councilman Dingfelder.
Councilman Vieira, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's one of my notes here to ask about mass transit, because there's a lot of important things that you've addressed on here, but I don't see where the department is jumping on board and holding our hands to lead that fight to mass transit. Frankly, you guys should have been in the Florida Supreme Court, with your attorneys arguing side by side with us. That's not your job, but you can pass that on as best you can. A couple of detailed questions. In regard to the proposed, would you like to respond?
If I could address the transit question, because I think it goes to the proposed motion, and I just want to make sure it's fully understood. The DOT is not a transit operator. We're not a transit provider. We're a funding source for transit. We act on a local plan. So in absence of what we have here in Hillsborough County is a plan for what it is DOT. So for example, going back to the Commissioner Overman's proposal to have discussions with CSX. Well-intentioned, but in absence of what do you want from CSX? Do you want to run a light rail? It's a simple question. Do you want to run a light rail system or a system similar to Sunrail, which is a heavy locomotive diesel system? That question is as simple as it sounds, is very, very complicated, because now you're talking about a completely different track system, a completely different, you're talking about stops every potentially half mile with a light rail, or stops that are 2 to 3 miles or 4 miles in length with a heavy diesel locomotive system. So as we move forward with these discussions, and I'm not saying the DOT doesn't play a role, and I'm not saying don't put us on the spot. I don't have a problem with that. But having us directing it and say, well, DOT, we want you to take the lead, we're not going to do that. We will never do that. That's not the role of our agency. Our agency is going to respond to the will of the local officials, the local operator, be it HART, be it the city, be it the county, as the light rail system with the streetcar. And contrary to what was said, we are working with the city to incorporate the streetcar system into our plan, and it's in there. It's part of what we're doing, and we will be a funding source as that project moves forward, a big funding source. But understand that DOT's role is we're in a response role, not in a leadership role when it comes to local transit.
Please state your name for the record.
I'm sorry, I'm Ed McKinney. I'm the Planning Environmental Administrator for the district office.
Thank you. Councilman Dingfelder, please continue.
Well, as long as we're talking transit, trains, et cetera, one of my questions was about the Orlando train. I can't remember what we're calling it these days.
Virgin trains.
I'm sorry?
Virgin trains.
Virgin trains. I know there's been an accommodation of some sort of a path to make sure that that train can get into at least downtown or to the, to the Union Station or somewhere along there. But then I get a little concerned that when we're talking about that 13th Street, 14th Street exit, is there any conflict there? Because I thought that was sort of the swath where the Virgin train was going to come in.
They haven't officially stated where they're going, but our modification of the exit ramp to 1415 will not have an impact on that.
Okay. So we still have a path for them? I mean,
yes,
even though they haven't said where they want to go, I mean, we obviously need to leave a path for them.
We've identified several paths, potential paths they could go, yes, sir.
That aren't in conflict with these plans?
That is correct.
Okay. So in regard to the 13th, 14th Street proposal, I know you study what your needs are on the highway, but have you all done a capacity study in regard to when you get off, especially to the 15th Street side going north? How far off do you study, or do you work closely with our transportation folks to evaluate that?
We do all of the above. So our traffic model will go beyond a couple intersections away from where the initial is, but we're also working with the city of Tampa to see what their plans are. We talked about green spine. We have the green spine still on 15th Avenue, which is similar to what it is on Jackson Street. It's a dedicated two-way movement for bicycles. So it's isolated from the traveling public, like it is on Jackson Street itself. So we are in active talks with our local agencies to make sure what we're wanting to implement is consistent with the vision of the.
I think when you drop down south and then the way it curves over to Nucio, I think that can handle it, but it concerned me a little bit on the northern extension up there.
Right, our model doesn't show much percentage of the traffic going up to East Tampa, but we did get expressed from East Tampa that they want that connectivity.
And how about trucks? I mean, we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars to try and keep the trucks out of Ybor by doing the flyover between the expressway and the interstate. So this concerns me a little bit now that with truck traffic and using the 13th, 14th exit.
We're working with the city right now. There is an active truck zone. If the city were to designate this a no truck area on Nucio, there's a certain piece of it, then we would put the no trucks allowed at this exit.
So we need to work with our city folks to do that?
Yes, sir. And we're working with the team to do that.
Yeah. I'm totally in favor of the 2 lanes to do the I-4 flyover. Are you actually adding more structure, or are you just spreading that out a little bit based upon the existing infrastructure?
We're widening the bridge, sir. So we are widening the bridge itself.
Does that require additional posts to support the widening, or is it?
Yes, sir. Okay. And it's within the footprint of the current interchange. Okay.
And then finally, perhaps the one I feel most strongly about at this point in time is about the toll lanes. I spoke pretty vigorously when I was on the MPO 14, 15 years ago to oppose the toll lanes on the interstate system. I haven't been convinced of why we need toll lanes. I'm not saying we don't necessarily need express lanes, but I don't understand why they need to be tolled. I think that's an infringement on middle class and economically disadvantaged people. They call them Lexus lanes for a reason, and frankly, I think my motion is going to follow yours, Chairman Vieira, in regard to this body opposing tolling. How many millions of dollars is that going to generate as compared to these billions of dollars that that the state's willing to throw down here? Do we have a number on that?
We do in our toll revenue report. It's not a profit generating mechanism, but I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, sir. We do have them available, and I can follow up with them.
Right. So but it's not a revenue generating mechanism. It's basically just to keep some people on and keep some people off.
It's to put a reliable travelway, yes. The point of that is to and this is not a commitment. We might not do it in the future. Right now we're clearing it for a connection from Howard Franklin Bridge to the Veterans, and then over to downtown Tampa. The purpose of dynamically tolling these lanes is to have a reliable travel way of at least 45 miles an hour or better.
Right. But it's a travel way, a reliable travel way for certain people, and other people can't afford it. So
it's not necessarily true either, because I mean,
you're not in their pocketbooks. You know?
No, and I'm not, but also you're not discussing policy of what we're trying to do. So you're trying to say, I mean, there are other ways where if it's an HOV car, if it's established, a registered HOV car, then they ride it for free. If the buses can use it for free, school buses, we can find ways to make it work for the community.
Well, you said that it's not hard and fast decided yet?
Correct.
Is that what you said?
So the policy can change in the future is what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm not opposed to the express lanes necessarily. I do see some benefit there, but I'm opposed to the tolling. That's all I have for today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, you know, as a person who used to, you know, write tickets occasionally and do traffic accidents, you know, when you put more lanes, that means more traffic. I don't care how you spin it. We're not accustomed in Hillsborough County yet and in our region of any other type of transportation other than cars. And to tell me you add lanes, you're going to add more cars on our interstate system. That's just factual. You can't tell me it's going to reduce. It won't, because we don't have the other necessities to get people off the highways, period. I think my biggest concern is making sure that 21st Street exit, I think that's what, when you look at my district, especially that middle core, it's the lifeline has been pumped out. The blood's been stopped pumping a long time. That's why we have nothing going into the middle core of East Tampa. When 40th Street was taken away, 22nd, I mean, I think we have to be cautious, and I think that's the big concern. I know 13th, 14th is a small concern, but I think the biggest concern to make sure people feel they're not going to be bamboozled in reference to that 21st Street exit, because that will be a major artery to still bring some type of business to the north end of town and to the south with Ybor. So if you just talk a little bit with me about that, so I can get it in my head that the structure of that we're not closing it, because people have the impression here that we're closing that. So is that valid or is that not valid?
That's not valid. You still have access to 21st, 22nd. The reason why we're moving it 14th, 15th is that we have a safety concern. You have people coming off of 275 southbound and also I-70 to 275 northbound that need to get to that exit. That's mixing traffic. So for us to separate it out, we actually have a choice. As you're going 275 northbound through getting into the downtown interchange, before you even get there, you can take this exit to 14th, 15th. As you're coming off the flyover ramp on 275 southbound to I-4 eastbound, you can get off that ramp, the bridge itself, and go into 14th, 15th. So we're trying to connect and get
What about coming back east? We go coming southbound on 275, coming back to I-4, going back east.
Yes, sir. So we're showing that 70% of the traffic is going to go through 14th, 15th and connect to 21st, 22nd.
Because I know coming back south to east, I know how it's difficult to make that change sometimes.
Yes,
I do know that is a problem.
Yes, sir.
All right. That's all I have.
Councilman Carlson.
Along those lines, I think I mentioned this in the last meeting. I heard steady complaints and concerns about the 14th, 15th Street exit addition, and I went back out to the community, and the drumbeat's getting louder and louder and louder. They want us to stop it. They want us to try to. You heard the comments earlier about stopping the entire project, and as you all. As my colleague said, you all have made a lot of accommodations for the community, but this is the big thing that I'm hearing, is that the community in Ybor and all around really does not want another exit there at 14th and 15th. Is there anything that this body can do to stop that or reverse that?
Well, you can continue to provide us feedback, and we have until we submit the final draft EIS or the final SEIS to submit what the plans will be. So we're still working with the city. We're still working with all entities to provide the best solution for this that everybody has buy-in to.
Thank you.
Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much, all of you from the Department of Transportation will be here today. I understand, or I believe I understand what the problems are. In my mind, the problem is simply complex. The reason is that we don't have an alternative other than just expansion of the expressway. Mentioned before, some type of rail. So we only have one thing on the table, the one thing that the public does not want, and we have to make them understand or not to believe or believe in that project. We don't have an alternative, so we're going to do this and add this component to it. And I think there's where the problem lies. When you look at rail, and I'm not an expert in transportation, I'll be the first to admit under oath, but very few are. So what I'm saying is that Malfunction Junction has been fixed 3 or 4 times. And it needs another fix again. And when you fix that one in the near future, you're going to need another fix. So I'm not trying to be humorous in any way, but what I'm trying to say is this. Sooner or later, if we keep going, we're all going to live under the expressway. That's how I see it. And I'm not anti, for, or against.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that if we keep expanding, I've said this before here, you cannot continue to build lanes just because you have more traffic. Because what that does, it keeps expanding, and you'll have an expressway that's 20 lanes wide.
Yes, sir.
And that's not what we want. That's not what you want. That's not what the public wants. That's what no one wants. So how do you solve that problem?
So if I could, how you solve the problem is you build a gate around Hillsborough County, and you don't let anybody come in. You stop
Well,
building,
I'm not
you
gonna,
stop-
I'm not
Yeah.
whoa. I'm not here to
But
insult you
Councilman,
in
I
any
guess the
way,
point
and
is-
I understand that because my own family tells me, what the hell are you doing building more and more development? I say, you want me to build the gate
As
around
we
the city of
continue to
Tampa? And I
grow-
tell them no.
As we continue to build developments like Armature Works, Water Works, apartments, as we continue to encourage new businesses to come to the area, to employ people, this is part of what growth happens. Tampa is not getting fat, we're getting bigger, right? We're still a growing community. We have one of the largest, in terms of counties, with a big metro city that resides within it. We still have a lot of area to develop, right? So this is not gonna go away probably in any of our generation. But the fact is we continue to encourage development, and that's a positive thing, right? We're doing things to encourage people to come here. We're projected to increase our population by 1 million by 2040. That's Miami size coming to Tampa, right? We're not getting smaller. The roads are not the problem. The problem is how are we developing, and any freshman planner can tell you, it's all about how you plan a community, how do you build a community around employment centers and attractions. That's really where you solve a lot of these problems. And then how do you decide you want these people to get around? The fact that you have another metro city, a large metro city, with very few ways of getting to it, and that's St. Petersburg in Pinellas County. I mean, we got this huge body of water that separates us. So there's only a limited amount of ways for us to get back and forth to those communities. And people want to work there. People want to work in Tampa. They want to have that flexibility. So as we continue to grow, we've got to be thinking better about how we plan for that growth and where do we want that growth to go in a way that discourages people from utilizing a car and encourages other modes of transportation. But to say that the roads are the problem, I strongly disagree with that.
Well,
the roads are nothing more than an attempt to try to address a problem I wouldn't call it a problem, but something that's occurring in our area that I think we all would agree is a good thing.
Let me say this. I didn't come here to argue. You jumped at me, I'm gonna jump at you if you like. But I'm not. I don't build walls. I don't believe in walls around Hillsborough County, around the city of Tampa. However, I can only see and tell you what I see. What I see is you cannot have just one alternative. They have to have many alternatives. If the airport stuck with your plan, sir, the planes would never leave because the people would never get there. They make a trail system. They have the cars that move you around quickly, and it's considered one of the finest airports in the whole world, not only in the country of the United States of America. So what I'm saying, we have to use something, modeling after that airport or modeling after something else that works. You just can't say, I want one thing only and that's it, because it ain't not working. I remember when these things opened back in the 60s, and there was articles in the Tampa Tribune, if I recall, saying nobody's using the expressway. That was true. At that time, it was true. But as people prospered, people bought automobiles in and out, it's become now reality what we have. And I can't fix what's something we already had. If a new city comes on, yeah, you can certainly plan it any way you want. This city's far from being new. It may happen in another city somewhere else in Florida that's just prospering, and you want to have a master plan, and you follow that master plan. There is no master plan for transportation here. Only when it gets gridlocked, you keep adding to it. That's no plan at all. The saying that banks are being robbed, and you don't do anything about it, well, the banks are still going to be robbed. And when you try to put a stop to it, guess what? It settles down. So what I'm trying to say is, in plain English, and that's not my first language, is to say this: give us an alternative. Whoever is on the rail system, whoever is on, and I agree, you have to have different types. You either have locomotives or you have the electric cars that move you in and out. And you might have to have two of them. But one alternative does not fix this problem. It won't fix it today, it won't fix it 20 years from now. Because we will be, and I'm gonna make that statement again, we will be living under the expressways if we continue to build more and more roads on the expressway. And that's the only thing, I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm trying to be as factual as I can. The problem is, and I hear millennials don't drive cars. Well, I've got 8 grandchildren. The only one that doesn't drive a car is the one that's 12 years old. And he's asking me for mine already. So what I'm trying to say, it's a habit, it's a thing of you want to have something different, you want a car. Every kid wants to have a car. Some don't, some that live in high-rise areas where everything's around you. God bless you, you don't have to move. But society's not that way. You pick and choose what you want, that's what they want. So well, thank you for coming over.
Thank you. Councilman Guido Maniscalco.
Thank you very much. And to build on what Councilmember Miranda said, you know, we need options. We've only been looking at, since I've been elected and been on the MPO since 15, and you know how I always vote against TBX, TV Next, and whatnot, because I listen to the people who elected me, is with the amount of growth that we have coming to this area, no matter how much you widen the interstate, no matter how many express toll lanes you put, where you control who can and can't get off and try to keep it open and whatnot, we're not keeping up with the population increase. It's going to still be congested, and in 20, 30, 40 years, we're going to say, well, we got to add a lane. It's going to be the same thing. I look at it as, you know, we need options, and a great example is, and because I go to Disney all the time in Orlando, to get to the Magic Kingdom, which I see as, you know, the hardest part to get into because you have the parking lot, and you have to take the ferry, the monorail, a bus, or if your resort is near there, you can walk to it. But the point is, they give you all the options because Disney knows our park is going to get full, and we want to move people as best we can. In Tampa, we have an inadequate bus system. We have a lawsuit pending with money that we don't know what we're going to do with, even though the people spoke overwhelmingly to approve something. And we're stuck with, you need a car to get around. I've used the bus on many, many occasions. I've tried to leave my car at home trying to get down to City Hall, and I can do it. You know, I take the bus and I use the downtowner, and I get to City Hall and whatnot. I've used the ferry to cross over to St. Pete so I don't have to deal with parking to go to a baseball game or to eat on Beach Drive or whatnot, to avoid traffic on Howard Franklin, which I used last night, which is always congested and backed up. But, you know, I know there's things on the table, but if you look at how Tampa used to be, we had a streetcar service that served the community as, you know, in the size that it was at the time. We pulled that up to accommodate interstate and automobiles. And we're still in this 70-year-old mindset of, you need more roads, you need wider roads, you need this, you need that. Not to mention the health issues from it. You know, you have people sitting on the interstate in gridlock, you know, day in and day out, whether it's morning rush hour or in the evening, and all that those cars are pumping out into the air, and people are breathing that. And then you look at the cancer risks and the cancer numbers and other health issues. You know, I mean, I don't understand why we focus so much on, you know, the freedom of the automobile. It was great marketing for the time. It was great for the car companies to sell their vehicles and the tire manufacturers to sell their tires. And we pulled up a streetcar because it was old, and we focus so much on the street and the independence of having your own vehicle. We need to go back to what we used to be. We did things right. The streetcar service worked from the late 1800s till 1946, and it worked. And then we went to the bus service, and the bus service has not been adequate. People that can't afford a car, and that's another issue, finances. It's expensive to have a car. You might have a $200-300 car payment, then you have a $150-200 insurance payment, then you have to put gas in the car, even though gas prices are getting to be more reasonable. I paid $2.21 yesterday, but the expense of a hard-working individual with 2 jobs or more, trying to feed their family, try to pay their rent, try to get around, and God forbid, they need a car repair, because that's another, or they need new tires, or whatever it is, a transmission breaks down. New tires are going to cost money, on and on and on and on. We need to look at different options. I understand that malfunction junction is how it is. I hate it. I took it on the way back. You know, I took Howard Franklin South and came back 75 north to I-4 to 275. It's always backed up. I don't get, even on a Saturday, on a Saturday morning, Sunday morning, it's quiet. But, you know, we have to stop focusing so much on the automobile. I know FDOT is you know, you're based on that. The interstate highway system of the 1950s is based on, you know, roads. But we have to change the thinking and the psychology. You go to Europe, you don't need a car. You know, the trains run on time in most areas. You use buses, subway services. You can walk. You know, we focus on the people. That's another thing we don't do, is we don't focus on pedestrians. We don't focus on the bicyclists. We don't focus on, you know, the well-being of our folks. And we see cars crashing into schools, pedestrian fatalities, you know, were the worst in the nation. I've watched people die. I watched a man die as paramedics were working on him as he was trying to cross Hillsborough Avenue. I saw a man dead right before they covered him on Hillsborough Avenue farther down. I saw a woman dead. You know, I got there before the police got there, and I had to see everything. These things are traumatizing. But imagine, you know, people that should be alive today that are dead because of the recklessness of automobiles. And again, our focus on cars. You know, focus on people, and the people come and speak. Some are here that have been here consistently at city council meetings, CRA meetings, MPO meetings, and I've heard them. I was elected to listen to the people. I'm not perfect. We don't always agree, but when it comes to stuff like this, especially the interstate that goes right through my district, through all these historic areas, people talked about Ybor City being cut in two. Ybor City is coming back after 50 years of decline, essentially. West Tampa split in two. Seminole Heights split in two. And it's come back because people made the sacrifice and made the investment. The city didn't rebuild these neighborhoods. I don't care what anybody says. It's people that cared to invest in these neighborhoods, that bought houses, that got involved in their neighborhood associations, that put together things like, you know, Stop TBX and Sunshine Citizens, and people that go the extra mile. These people don't need to be here. They should be at work. They should be enjoying their day, but they put the sacrifice in coming here. And I don't want to say wasting their time, but sometimes, and a lot of times, they don't feel like they're heard. And FDOT is you're not the enemy. I'm not trying to demonize anybody, but we have to change the mindset and the thinking and put it back on the people. Not because they elected us. As taxpayers, they pay all of our salaries. You know, they should be heard first. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. First off, I'd like to say that you are brave for standing here and taking all this. You truly are, and my comments are not meant to be directed toward you or the ladies or the other gentlemen in the audience. You're just the messengers.
Yes.
I can get from here to Barris Avenue on 275 in less than 10 minutes right now. During rush hour, it's going to take me an hour. These plans that I see before me benefit a lot of people. That 150,000 people that come into our downtown urban core each and every day from Pinellas, Polk, Pasco, Manatee County. That's who this is going to benefit. But who is going to be affected the most? My beloved West Tampa, the heart and soul of Tampa, Ybor City, Seminole Heights, Riverside Heights. Those people are affected the most by these plans. And I apologize for saying this to you. You're not listening to them. I belong to an organization where we try and fight ignorance, fanaticism, and tyranny. You guys are the smartest traffic engineers that I know, but you're ignorant because you're not listening to the communities that are affected the most by this. The fanaticism of build roads, build roads, build roads, build roads. You are the Department of Transportation. Yes, you need cooperation from us, but there are alternatives. These people that live in Manatee, Pasco, Pinellas, Polk County can be taking some sort of rail on a dedicated rail. We put more and more and more on our roads. We have seen what happened with Hart and a streetcar hitting a bus. We saw the other day, I believe it was on Veterans, where a supposed Lexus lane was blocked because there was an accident. Did that move mass transit any faster? No, I'm sorry, it did not. And I'm going to be harsh, and I don't mean. Lastly is tyranny. You look at us and you say, we have millions and millions of dollars for you if you spend it our way. If you don't, we're going to take it away from you, and we'll give it to somebody else. Let's get together on this. I see no point in the 14th, 15th exit. I see no point in that at all. If you want to have some exits coming off 275 on aisle 4, continue them to 21st, 22nd Street. This interstate is doing nothing now. In my opinion, this interstate is doing nothing now but to move people through the city of Tampa. I want people to come here. I want people to visit. I want people to go to Ybor. I want people to go to Midtown, West Tampa, and shop. I want them to come and see how beautiful our city is in between Mickey and the beaches. Come to Tampa. But there's other alternative forms of transportation. All the people in Seminole Heights, Ybor City, West Tampa, Riverside Heights are asking for is, don't ruin our neighborhoods. We can have better transportation. Now, Councilman, thank you for standing there and taking it from me. You all are brave. Councilman Vieira, would you like to re-quote your motion, restate your motion?
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And a couple of things also wanted to add to that, if I may, Mr. Chair. Also wanted to recognize, I see here our friend, Ms. Chloe Coney, who's here, who works with TB Next. After the reset button, if you would, was pushed on TBX, and we saw the retaining and hiring of Mrs. Coney, who is, to me, has a name that is stellar in all of our community. I think that is a real step forward that has produced results. I don't just think it's a symbolic name. I think it's a name that's actually had results. So, Ms. Coney, just wanted to recognize you and respect your role in that. And something that was said regarding also FDOT that I think it was Chairman Citro, in terms of not seeing FDOT as the enemy. Clearly, that's not my perspective. A lot of the projects that we talked about before, things that are incremental changes to the interstate, are things that will benefit us. But my overall point is, those are Band-Aids. Let's stop producing situations that produce wounds that necessitate Band-Aids, and let's start talking about alternatives, while also taking care of some of those Band-Aids. And that's what my motion seeks to go to. So, Mr. Chair, I motion that this body, and I had talked about correspondence to FDOT. Mr. McKinney had talked about I guess, putting a preference, if you will. And I motion that this body affirm and support via correspondence and resolution the vote by MPO to include use of CSX as a top priority in its county planning, and further this body requests that FDOT prioritize in working with the MPO, the county and the city, mass transit and continued robust investments in mass transit and its future plans.
Councilman Dinkfelder?
A question on the motion, and perhaps a friendly amendment, or I could do it separately. And since you're on the MPO, Mr. Vieira, you can make the choice. I would like to propose either adding on to your motion or make a separate motion that we oppose tolls on the interstate within the city of Tampa. Whether or not you want that to be separate or together.
I'll probably support it. If you want to put it there, as a courtesy, I'll do that. Yeah, I know, for instance, yesterday, I think FDOT was at Tampa Palms. I couldn't make it because of an engagement with my son for his some church obligations over at St. Mark's Catholic, but I was interested in hearing that as a general principle. I've always thought that we can do better than toll lanes. Let's just put it. Yesterday, I was in court in Martin County, and on the way back, I had to pay an $11 toll. In one time, $11. That was, I had to write a check for that, by the way. I didn't have $11 on me, which is a sad statement. So I'll take it.
All right, so that would be my friendly amendment offer, is to oppose tolling on the interstate system within the city limits. I also wanted to give a shout out to Ms. Coney. When we were at the affordable housing meeting that the mayor had, the first thing out of her mouth was, we're going to establish a trust. And you were in front of us 6 months ago, Chloe, advocating establishing a affordable housing trust. So, like I said before, I want to call it the Chloe Coney Trust. But anyway, thank you for all you do. Thank you, Mr.
Councilman Carlson.
Mr. Vieira.
I'd like to make a motion to, and I don't know how you all feel about this, but I'd like to make a motion to officially oppose the 14th, 15th Street exit. If there's consensus to agree to it, maybe that would be a separate motion.
Yes, it would be a separate motion. Can you wait till we get
Yeah,
done with
yeah,
this one?
I just want to throw it out since.
We have a motion that has been made by Councilman Vieira, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco.
As amended.
As amended, yes, sir. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Now, Mr. Carlson, if you'd like to make that motion, Councilman Carlson, if you'd like to make that motion.
Yeah, I'd just like to, and forgive me if I don't get the form right, but I'd like to make a motion that we officially oppose the 14th, 15th Street exit and notify DOT.
Do I hear a second? Second. A motion made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Any discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've been getting briefings on this. This one, maybe it's probably not new, but I hadn't really focused on it. I was just texting with Gene Duncan, the head of our transportation, kind of asking where the administration is on this, sort of the questions I was asking these gentlemen. How much coordination they've had, have they studied the impact on Ybor, the truck traffic issue, the northbound issue, et cetera. I guess I'd love to hear back from the city on that one, because I will say I take that 21st Street exit quite a bit coming from either South Tampa or downtown, and I get going to Ybor and I get off the 21st, and sometimes I get frustrated because there's a lot of backup there when you try and hit that 21st Street. And if that 13th, 14th can alleviate some of that backup without being truly harmful to the neighborhood and community, then maybe it's not a bad thing. So I'm not ready to support it at this point, but and especially I'd like to hear from the city transportation and see their opinion on the local impacts. If you agree with me, Bill, maybe we can defer that and get Ms. Duncan over here to talk about it, next week or two, and just get a little more information.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry, Councilman Vieira.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I appreciate and agree with Councilman Dingfelder's sentiments. I do think that there needs to be further discussion on this issue. And I would love to hear from the city administration as to their position on this one. Clearly, more dialogue needs to be done, and including with council, I think, before we vote on that, because I would hate to come out prematurely on one particular side on this issue before further engaging on it.
Councilman Miranda.
I right now, I don't have enough information to vote on it. I want to see a complete, comprehensive. I know there's a couple of things also because of the 14, 15. There's a road that comes through and it drops off, and I haven't pictured that all in my mind yet. So I understand and I appreciate what you're saying, but I understand what Mr. Dingfeld is also saying. So at this time, I'd rather not vote on it myself to see what happens. If I have to vote today, I'll vote with Mr. Dingfeld, and I believe Mr. Chairman Vieira of the council said that also. I'm not against it or for it. I just got to digest what I've heard, and I haven't digested it all.
Tell me if it's appropriate to do it here, but then I need to withdraw my motion. or change
if
it?
the way I think it's going to go, yes, and then I would imagine you would want to bring it up to council instead of CRA.
CRA, okay.
Are you withdrawing your motion?
Yeah, I withdraw it, thanks.
Good, then I don't have to make my statement. All right, are we ready to move on, Kel?
Can I ask one thing? The way I first heard this opposition was on the YCDC board. I sat in a YCDC meeting, and I heard a lot of feedback, negative feedback about this there. I had not heard about it before I sat in that meeting. And so where do you think the best venue is? Is it, because what I would like to do is invite Representative the YCDC, if that's appropriate, and transportation to give an update on it.
I think that would be fantastic. But let's get, as per Councilman Dinkfelder's suggestion and Councilman Miranda's follow-up, let's get Ms. Duncan in here, maybe with FDOT also.
No, but so what I mean is, since I first heard about it at YCDC, is it more appropriate to do it in a CRA meeting or do it in a council meeting?
I would do it in a council meeting.
Still?
Agreed?
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Van Loan. We are now going back to agenda item 1.
So we would be calling up Ms. Natasha Goodley to represent the East Tampa Community Update.
Perfect, thank you. Ms. Goodley?
I'm a bit under the weather, so I do apologize if I'm a little low. But
Holler, Miss Goodley. I know you have a sore throat.
oh. So for the East Tampa CRA presentation, we're making great strides in East Tampa. On February 22nd, we will graduate our first class of 9 for our down payment assistance program. Therefore, in the next few months, we'll welcome 9 new homeowners, and we're looking to host the second cohort in mid-April. We are also finalizing the verbiage for our tree trimming grant to assist residents with trimming trees that might be dangerous on their property. And of course, we still have our owner-occupied rehab as well. And then we have our ever-growing demolition list. It's up to 161 properties right now, which has infuriated some residents, as it appears to be a mechanism to take people's properties. However, these are all vacant, abandoned properties. None are occupied, and many of these properties have been boarded up for decades. So the real question is, why was this allowed to linger in East Tampa for decades? We know that boarded up properties decrease property values and choke any type of economic growth. The good news is that many of the property owners have taken it upon themselves to demolish the properties, and others have applied for permits to rehab the property, which is good because that means we've lit a fire under them to actually do something. And of course, the remaining properties will be demolished by the city, and a lien will be placed on the property for the demolition, but the land still belongs to the original homeowner. When an area has gone underserved for decades, the people soon grow accustomed to the blight. It's normal to see the boarded up homes and dumping throughout the area. But now we're making a concerted effort to bring equality to East Tampa. I've been told that we're moving too fast and we should slow down a bit, but I beg to differ because the race for equality can never be too swift. We also would like to publicly acknowledge Ms. Cynthia Few and her tireless efforts on getting the light at MLK and 26th Street. With the remodeling of the C. Blythe Andrews Library and the several schools in walking distance from that intersection, that has been a difficult intersection to cross and has been the place for many accidents. She's been fighting this fight since 2016, so we want to thank her for all of her efforts. We're also accepting applications for our summer youth program. Applications will be accepted through February 29th for a total of 36 youth. The program is for residents of East Tampa for part-time summer employment. We also now have 5 part-time positions that will be available for 5 youth that are 18 and over to help them become City of Tampa employees and merge into other jobs with the city. We could make greater strides if the blocks were removed, if we weren't pitting one neighborhood in East Tampa against another, if we weren't trying to halt the process by slowing the train down. We've heard the excuse that we're updating our strategic action plan. We should wait. Until this happens, we're still under the original strategic action plan and can still move forward with creating a better East Tampa. I understand that some of the larger projects should fall under the consultant, but we should not come to a standstill right now. It should not be tolerated, especially when we don't even have a start date for the consulting. So I wanted to also just say, for the record, I've lived in Tampa Bay for 18 years. I've spent almost my entire adult life in Tampa Bay, and I've lived in East Tampa now for almost 9 years as a homeowner. I've been the chair of the CAC for only 1 year and 5 months. And within the 1 year and 5 months, we've implemented several programs for the residents and are working hard to beautify East Tampa. All the programs that I've just called out have been implemented since I've been chair. I understand some of the frustration with the community. However, most of that frustration is due to the lack of improvement that went on for years. As I mentioned earlier, dilapidated structures were allowed to remain. Code violations went unchecked for years. After all contributing to the sustained blight which we now see, the same blight that has prevented economic growth. So I understand some of the frustration, but you should be frustrated with the individuals who allowed this to exist for years. It's been said that I personally do not want to rebuild or improve the Fair Oaks Park, so I wanted to address. I have no problem with doing whatever the people want, but I personally believe it should be included in the city's budget. We found out during the community meeting at Fair Oaks is that the park was repeatedly included in the budget plan, but never made it to the official budget, which is why only quick fixes were done to the park. I personally believe it is time to include the park in the city's official budget and allow the CRA to supplement however the CRA sees fit. Fair Oaks was built in 1970, and I've been chair for 1 year and 5 months. Thus, I am in no means halting the progress of moving forward with the Fair Oaks Park. And lastly, contrary to what people believe, nothing happens on the CAC because I said so. I don't take any of the minutes. We have Ms. Eva that records the minutes for all CAC and partnership meetings. We are a board of 13 and everything is decided by vote. And our CAC is open to anyone who wants to join. We have some who do not want to see any changes occur in East Tampa, and that's their prerogative. It's interesting how people come to these meetings wanting us to do more, yet in our meetings, progress is halted with excuses. I'm the chair, so I'm willing to accept that. It's easy for people to say it's your fault, but again, I've only been chair for 1 year and 5 months. So many of the issues have been lingering again for almost decades. So I wanted to just let you know where we're at, what we're working on, and what we're trying to also implement and try to move forward with.
Any questions? Councilman Goods, then Councilman Dinkfelder.
You know, gentlemen, it's hard to be a volunteer. You know, I sit back and I listen to comments week after week. But you know, when it's time to get on the board and put your name to pen the paper, to sit on the board, to make decisions, and when I look at these records here, because I sat on that CAC board before I was elected as a council. So I know the frustrations of decades of work that we think should have been done, didn't get done, because the lack of participation from the community on the board. So you have to have participation to make things work. And when you're one or two, and a lot of times with organization, there's only 2 or 3 people that keep the organization afloat. And then people get mad that decisions are made, but you're looking around and you say, well, where were you? Where were you when we needed you? Why didn't you come and put your name up and sign to be on the board to help? My friends, it's hell to be a volunteer. When you're not getting paid and people are ridiculing you in the streets, you're a business owner and you're trying to do right by the community, it's hard to be a volunteer. It's good to yell and scream and say what hasn't been done. My thing is, well, when you going to get on the board? You just finally got 13 members on that board. I can remember the days that we had 2 or 3 people show up to the meeting. Couldn't get a quorum. No, that's not your fault that people say they're going to be committed and don't show to give their help. So I say thank you for the work you have done, because you have pushed the needle since you have been chair. And I want to give props when props are due, because I've been around as a police officer in East Tampa and seen when the police building was built, and totally agree with that. But it is working in East Tampa because people utilize the police station. They do. They come there when they have issues with child custody issue. They're able to be on the camera. A lot of things go. People come in to get reports. So, you know, at that time, it might have didn't seem a great idea, and money was taken to do that project. But there was a board that agreed to that. Be it right or wrong or different, there was a board in place that agreed, and the community didn't agree. But again, I say decisions are hard sometimes when you're volunteering and you're trying to do the best you can. All I can say is keep your head up. You know, there's a process in place, and many people don't know the process of the CAC board. Talking about the top down, bottom up. People don't know the process. And I think it's going to come a point that the interim director or the new director needs to have a meeting with the community so the community can know what the process is, how things get done on a CAC board, and what the partnership role is. I think that's a problem, that people don't know the two roles. And I don't think they mix from what I read in the bylaws. And I think that's crucial, that people are educated to the system. And when you're not educated to the system, you give false conclusions, all kind of inaccuracies. So I think people have to be educated to how the system works. And people got to get off their cans. If you say you want things done, people got to be able to get on the land use committee. Got to be able to get on the economic development committee. Got to be able to get on some of the other committees when you see one people showing, you can't even get a quorum to get things moving. But you're not to blame for all the things that have gone wrong. I've been here 9 months, and I've taken a lot. But, you know, it comes with the job. And you're not thick-skinned enough, isn't it? It's okay, I got to learn to be a little more thick-skinned. The police officer, I didn't have to be thick-skinned. I just have to try to solve problems. I'm a problem solver. That's what I do. That's what I've always done. That's what I'm going to continue to do, to try to solve the problem of East Tampa. I can agree that East Tampa has not moved the way it should have moved. It's 7.4 miles. It's a lot of mileage for a CRA. And some of the other CRAs are smaller, so they've been thriving better. But we still got to do better. You know, I've always said we're big, but we have no middle point. And I think for the East Tampa CRA, we need a more aggressive approach. We have to have a middle point and go within to out to build. You can't have 161 properties and think your community is going to look good. I drove around the chief of staff. We drove around all the communities of East Tampa in that district. And we looked at what the potential could be. Look at the overgrown lots. Look at all the boarded up buildings. We should be looking at some of the money the CRA has and asking the county and the city to be able to match those funds to do more owner rehab in East Tampa. And that way, these little crutch, I call cracks, that when you say you got the owner rehab and all these different criteria and people can't get the help they need with all these blue tarps on their houses because they can't get them fixed, there should be a separate fund to be matched to be able to go in and say, no matter what, we're fixing East Tampa. We're going to give people opportunity and stop all this red tape. There's too many roadblocks. I'm in the hot seat now. Hey, I'm going to burn up, or we're going to douse the fire. I plan on dousing, and I plan on holding anybody, the manager, the interim director, I plan on holding those people accountable, because they're the persons who are supposed to be giving those ideas and helping those boards and making sure those boards have good people on them, going out to these different association meetings, meeting with those people. Everyone's not going to come to the meetings. Some people don't like getting out of their comfort zone, but they like their little house. We got to go to their house.
I go to every meeting.
So my suggestion is we've got to move. We got to make sure we have new thinking of ideas, which you brought a lot of different programs, especially I'm waiting for that tree program. I have people call me every day about the tree program. And I hope there's not a lot of red tape to that program, because there are seniors that need help getting those trees cut. Period. We have a CRA that we can cut the red tape versus other city dollars. So I'm hoping that we're having programs that are going to be effective to be able to help people and move and clean our places up. I was at a convention where they went in a little town, went and bought a semi-truck, had all the rehab properties and everything, materials, and went down street by street rebuilding their communities. Those are the projects we got to work on. And I'm going to hold whoever is in charge accountable now. I'm going to hold the board accountable. It is what it is. If I got to be held accountable, there are going to be other people that have to be held accountable too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Dingfelder.
It's a hard act to follow, Councilman Goods, but I agree with you. I agree with you completely. First thing I wanted to say was I don't believe in personal attacks in any context at all. And on behalf of the city and the CRA, I want to apologize to you. We appreciate your good work.
Thank you.
We appreciate your volunteer work. I appreciate everybody who comes down here, but I don't appreciate personal attacks, no matter what direction they're flying. So let's all work together for the betterment of the community, the betterment of East Tampa. With that said, I did want to make a suggestion. I think it sort of came up in the mayor's discussion yesterday about affordable housing and that sort of thing. I've volunteered in the past with Bay Area Legal Services. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but I'm just thinking maybe we could give them a little grant, a couple $1,000s a grant, so they could aggressively go out and work with those families who have the homes that are problematic, to see if they can get those wills and those lack of wills straightened out before the city has to take charge and demolish them. I'm not trying to slow down the demolition because I know some of those houses do need to come down, but at the same time, we should try our best to help those families keep some of that money within the family instead of just defaulting back to the city. So that would just be a friendly suggestion. I'm sure Bay Area Legal Services would be glad to work with us if we can give them a little bit of money to do that. I'm pretty sure they do not help. Typically, they don't want to help people who have real estate issues because they figure, well, you got real estate issues, you must have money. You don't need our help. But some families find themselves in a catch-22 in regard to that legal help. So that's just a suggestion. If you need any contact information along those lines, I'll be glad to help. Thank you.
Yes, please. Councilman Carlson.
I first want to echo my colleagues' appreciation for your hard work, and especially coming in if you're not feeling well today. But thank you. It's a difficult challenge, and I just want to echo and amplify a little bit on what you said. This issue has been a long time coming, and we all are receiving feedback. We're receiving it at least every week, and sometimes in between, and you all are as well. And we're all working hard to try to resolve the issues. Just so the public knows, we with all the money that we might be able to get in the next 8 years, we're not going to be able to fix the problems of neglect and abuse of East Tampa and the African American community over the last 8 years. There was so much neglect that we can't possibly fix all the problems in the next 8 years, and it's really, really frustrating. And so we're going to have to fix things as quickly as possible. I mean, the decisions that were made were horrific. Not renovating at $200,000, not renovating the primary community center in East Tampa, but spending $12 million on a boathouse so rich kids from the Northeast can come ride their boats is just unacceptable. And there were so many bad decisions like that. Tampa is not a dictatorship anymore. With the new mayor and the new city council, we're listening to the public, and that's why we're going to get more and more people every week telling us what they think, and you're going to hear it, and everybody in the audience is going to hear it, and we've got to work as hard as we can to resolve the issues. We've got to listen to the community, work with everybody. It's going to take a lot of time and effort to try to figure out how to fix all of this. And I think you and everybody else who's given us our feedback, we're going to work really hard. I think we're unanimously in agreement that we need to address the issues that the community is telling us about. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Goodman. Oh, I'm sorry.
Let him go first. That's right.
Ms. Gilly, when I look at these, it's what I call assets that we do have in East Tampa. When we talk about gentrification, we have the assets. We've just got to rebuild those assets we currently have to slow down the gentrification. So I'm hoping that we come up with a plan, that your board will come up with a plan as we address these 161 properties, that we address these 161 properties, be it if we can buy them as the CRA. I think that's key when we're saying we're owning things, because now we can do the things we need to do as a CRA to beautify those communities. With some of these properties, especially along all those corridors, I think we need to look at buying the assets that are in some of those corridors so we can be able to bring that prosperity and bring the things we want to see to East Tampa. And that's the kind of focal point I want to look at when I say we've got to start rehabbing our community. So I'm hoping we're going to have a robust conversation and making sure that we start looking at the assets we do have and rebuilding the assets we have. Now, let me just say something around to Fair Oaks. Ms. Noreen Copeland read a brochure or dossier that was done years ago. Mr. Dingfellow even thought Ms. Wiggins, he didn't know she had passed. He thought it was someone else. But when she read about facilities and recreations, it's been there for decades. So I know the CRA had down points sometimes, but then it bounced back when it did. So when I look at, when you talk about facilities, you know, I don't want to say that it should be no excuse that things were not done, but things were not done. And that was in your strategic plan when it first was done, Ms. Wiggins. So there's no need to say why things didn't get done. They didn't get done. So we got to get things done. So my thing is, you know, we can't wait on a strategic plan because we don't know when that's going to get here. We got to continue to work aggressively now until we can get a strategic plan. And that's what I want to see done. You know, I have all the CRAs but one. And East Tampa is my baby. So I want to make sure that this baby is growing. That's what I need to get done. That's what I need your board to understand, that it's got to grow. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I just wanted to.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ms. Natasha, go ahead.
So we have started with land acquisition along 22nd Street with some of the property we already owned. So we have done that in trying to expand. As far as 161 properties go, even if the city demolishes, it's still the original owner's land. So it'll have a lien on it, but it's still there. So we will only have an opportunity to try to purchase if it goes to auction.
Well, I think that goes to Mr. Dingfellow's point. If we have a sidebar of money set for being legal somebody to be talking to these folks or whatever, you know, some people can just creating all these liens that may not want the property, but maybe, you know, by negotiating what we might can obtain that or do what we need to do so it's not blighted. That's my only point on that.
Councilman Vieira.
And I was just make a very short comment, just Ms. Goodley, thank you for coming here today while you're sick and you're strong because the blood of Johnny Goodley is in you. So there you go. That's her father. Thank you. Good man.
Thank you for your report, Ms. Goodley.
I did bring a wipe to wipe down the lectern so nobody gets sick after me. Seriously.
Board members, it is 11:45 now. May I have a motion that we power through this until 12:30? I think actually 1 o'clock might be more realistic. If we can keep our comments to a minimum, we can get done at 12:30. Okay? If we can keep our comments to a minimum, please and thank you.
Can we have the PowerPoint, please? Malcolm Kiner, CRA staff, and I will be fast. Yeah, please bring up the PowerPoint. Thank you. So first with West Tampa, as you all know, as we've been reporting every month, we are very active in our subcommittees. The few things that I will highlight are housing subcommittee met earlier this week. We went over and tentatively approved the scope for a request for proposal to work with a number of nonprofits in the area to help with housing rehab. So as I stated in prior meetings, we want to have a multi-pronged approach to rehab. We have our homeowner occupied program that we're partnering with the city on. This will be with independent nonprofits, and then we will have a third leg to try to reach every person within our area. Along with that, we've also discussed a possible down payment assistance program that's tailored specifically to West Tampa, and specifically as prices continue to rise in West Tampa. Our infrastructure subcommittee partnered with our economic subcommittee last night to host a meeting to discuss parking in West Tampa. That is a big issue, as our chair knows. That was discussed a lot during our strategic action planning process.
For the last 15 years.
Exactly. So, and I will say we had a very robust West Tampa discussion last night, and we will continue to discuss that, and that will come before this body as we continue to cook that down. Our special events subcommittee, during our last CAC meeting, there was a motion made for us to budget an additional $70,000 towards marketing. That will come before this body. Our special events subcommittee is going to look at creating a marketing plan, and we would like to bring that along with the request for the funding. I want to thank our chair, actually Mr. Robinson, as well as TICO, our transportation department, specifically Jan Washington, the Tampa Police, for the LED conversion that is going on in West Tampa. TICO has converted the majority of the street lights, as well as some lights that are on private property, to LED lights. Our chair, along with our committee, will be walking the area in the next month or so to find if there are any gaps in that process. Moving forward to, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Okay. As it relates to indirect
I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Robinson expresses displeasure, understandably, because he said they didn't get notice about yesterday's affordable housing meeting out there on the 18 acres along the river. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. He did get in contact with me yesterday afternoon. I responded to Chair Robinson. As he stated, I believe the administration did reach out to him to have a discussion with him regarding why that did not occur. So hopefully moving forward, that won't occur. I was going to make an announcement here in our notable events. The administration, along with other city staff, is planning to attend our West Tampa CAC meeting at the end of this month on the 25th to discuss the potential RFP on that 18-acre site that you all were on yesterday. So we're hopeful that they will continue to have conversations with us as they move forward with an RFP on that land and take the opinions of our CAC and our citizens in West Tampa.
So they just sort of slipped through the cracks and we apologized?
As I understand it, yeah, that was the case.
All right, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll move forward to Drew Park. Since you covered that for me, Councilman. Drew Park, we are still actively under construction on our linear park. Staff submitted to this body a draft of the scope for our strategic action plan for your review. That was week before last. We submitted that for any comments. We did not receive any comments from you all, but if you want us to submit it again, we will. We hope to bring that before this body next month for approval. Our CAC did offer some additional comments to the scope, and the consultant has responded. So that will all be provided to you all as we move forward. And again, our facade grant program is active and receiving applications. Major indirect activities outside of the stadium project and not listed on your slide. Along Grady and what was a vacant warehouse, Rexel Electric is now operating. We'd like to welcome them to Drew Park. And also along Hesperides, Blanton Glass Systems is under construction. And so we would like to welcome them to the area. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kiner. Ms. Orr.
Good morning. Courtney Orr, CRA Manager, DeBoer City. Okay, so this discussion obviously occurred at length this morning, but YCDC board did submit a letter in their opposition, which Chairman Citro has. And so yeah, that is exactly what the community is saying, is that they are in opposition of that 14th and 15th Street access or exit from I-4 due to the fact of the walkability impacts it could have to the HCC students and health issues and everything else that had been stated earlier. So thank you for accepting that letter. The project improvements that we are making currently are in the Fernandez Noriega and Central Ybor garage restrooms. They're still underway, but making progress. And then the monument that was starting to crumble on Palm Avenue has been repaired, as well as new signage added to that. And as you know, the Vision 2020 plan was approved, so that is a plan that will not be on the shelf. We are actively looking at it. We're taking it to each of our committees. Every committee of ours, which we have 3, have reviewed all the action items and are assigning every item to each of the committees, and then prioritizing the top 2 to 3 things that we can accomplish at a quick pace. And one of the things that the community was very interested in was researching Adamo Drive and conducting a study on Adamo Drive, in that if there is development on Adamo Drive that can go higher than all the other height restrictions that are within the core of Ybor City, how could that change the complexion of Ybor City? So we're getting ready to develop a scope of services for it to get that underway. And then also we walked 7th Avenue with Tico yesterday. We spent about 6 hours walking 7th Avenue to identify where all the pole locations are going to go for the archway light enhancement project. The scroll lights over 7th Avenue have been there for about 20 years. They need to come down. They were never meant to stay up that long. So we've been working with Tico for a few years now to develop a new design and remove all the unattractive poles that are gray and old, and trying to enhance the overall streetscape on 7th Avenue. So we're further inching that important project along. We met with the staff of Parks and Recreation. They're doing a citywide parks master plan, and we were just providing our input to it of what came out of the vision plan, and looking at things like improving Centennial Park, possibly researching creating a linear park on 6th Avenue. So we made sure to put in our wants and needs in their minds, but they did say there's going to be a lot of community outreach as part of that. So Ybor will be able to provide input to it. Parking signage, we always have our signs hit in Ybor City, so we were working with our parking division to bring aboard a contractor that can stay on top of those issues and replace immediately any signs that are damaged. Working very closely hand in hand with the Ybor City Chamber of Commerce. They're creating a strategic plan. So they have a new chief operating officer that was hired a few months ago, and so Ybor City Chamber of Commerce is really doing a great job of becoming very active and a pillar in the community. And then the Saturday market, it's actually going into its 20th year, which is significant. So they're going to be doing a brand update, and we value the market very much because they do serve to a degree as a business incubator, and they operate every Saturday, rain or shine. So 52 markets a year. Sorry. Notable events: Jimmy's Tacos, located at 1604 North 17th Street, held its ribbon cutting in January. So we have another business to welcome to the district. And then Ybor City's festival season is in full swing, and there you have listed the events that are happening this month. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Orr.
Let me ask Mr. Orr a question.
Any questions?
So how are we doing with the ordinance of the standing lines? How's that going?
Oh, we're working with code enforcement, and code enforcement goes out twice a month to review that everything is working well with the queuing lines at the nightclubs.
Queuing lines. Okay.
Yeah, so they have provided a long list of the last time, which I forwarded to you. I hope you received it, but there was a pretty thorough list of all of the nightclubs that the code enforcement officers observed to make sure that the queuing lines were in order. And so, yeah, we're staying on top of that, working with TPD as well very closely.
And everybody's being monitored, correct?
Everybody,
right.
Everybody. The list was probably about 20 to 25 bars that they had observed and noted whether they were following the queuing line ordinance or if they needed to remind them what they needed to do.
Does council understand what the queuing line ordinance is? Yes. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Orr.
Good morning, Board. Ed Johnson, East Tampa CRA Manager. Keep the PowerPoint going. Here we go. I'm going to, I skipped the first slide because our chairperson, I believe, adequately covered the first three items that were on the direct list. The one on demolition and debris removal, the Affordable Housing Down Payment Assistance Program, which is graduating soon, and our East Tampa Clean Team, our youth program, and the 5 part-time individuals we're getting ready to hire. So I'm going to skip to the next slide, which is concerning our street resurfacing program. We have allocated funding for FY18 to FY22 through this program. You heard earlier today some folks voicing concerns about resurfacing streets. This CRA has been aggressively supporting our transportation department for a number of years, and we've allocated annually over $500,000 for the last several years to address road resurfacing. Of course, it's done by priority basis. The roads that need it the most are the ones that get the money. So I just want to report to you that the CAC approved adding another $500,000 to this program, bringing our current resurfacing fund balance to $976,347. Completed projects from FY19 included Southeast Seminole Heights neighborhood and parts of the East Tampa Business and Civic Neighborhood Association, the northern half, consisting of 70,500 square yards of paving. Pedestrian and ramp upgrades were also completed during the resurfacing projects. Planned resurfacing projects for FY 2020 include East Lake Avenue from 40th Street to Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard, also Southeast Seminole Heights neighborhood, the southern half, and also 13th Street at Giddens Avenue, especially to address pavement ponding issues and other neighborhood locations to be determined. And the next couple of slides are giving you an illustration of exactly where those particular locations are located. This is the overview map and then a detailed map of the neighborhoods that will be receiving the resurfacing dollars. This is the next one. It's the Southeast Seminole Heights piece. And then this is the southern portion that we're going to work on. And of course, that's the big loop on Lake Avenue that's going from 40th Street all the way up to Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard. Now, our indirect activities, I wanted to address where we're going with the 34th Street North from Columbus to East Hillsborough Avenue project. I know there's a lot of discussion about roundabouts, but the contract has been let. David Nelson Construction Company was awarded $3.7 million for this project. It's a safety improvement project. The pre-construction meeting was held January 21st. The contractor is scheduled March the 2nd as the kickoff date for this project, and they're going to start at the intersection of 21st Avenue first. And notable events, I just want to kind of highlight some of the new single-family homes that are being developed in East Tampa. We're always talking about the wow factor. I think some of these are wow factors compared to what has been there that we've been demolishing over the last several months. These are two different styles of homes that are being built by private developers, not non-for-profit developers. These are private developers that have taken it upon themselves to buy property in East Tampa and build adequate market rate housing, which is desperately needed in this community.
Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry, who are the developers that are doing that?
The top house is Infinity Homes Construction Company, and they've been buying property in East Tampa for some time. They have about 15 projects that already started, and they don't build anything unless they have a home buyer. So they don't even start construction until they know they have someone qualified to become a homeowner in their product. The bottom one is being built by Gulf Bay Builders. Joe Gibbons is the CEO of Gulf Bay Builders, and they've been building all over the community, not only in East Tampa, but other communities as well. They do, their construction is what's called SIPS construction, structured insulated panel construction. Most of his properties are being built that way. He has a number of starts along 15th Avenue, some on 10th. Develops very nice product. And by the way, Joe was also a graduate of one of the very first classes that we conducted through the University of South Florida's program that we have for Community Real Estate Development Training Program. It's in his 13th year. Joe was in one of the very first classes, and he's obviously learned a lot through that process, and it's paid off for him.
Go Bulls.
Yep, go Bulls. So that completes my report. If there's any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. We get the hand up. Hi, Rob Rosner, CRA manager for Downtown Channel District, Central Park, and Tampa Heights. We'll start with the downtown. So the first of one of our things that we put out was for the convention center. We put the RFQ out. You received that. Our CACs have received that. We received minimal no comments. That was well written and well coordinated with the city departments that are being involved in that. And we hope to have some good applications come in soon. We also have the Riverwalk improvements that we talked about recently that go along with the Strauss project and the AER Tower. We're in the midst of getting that to 90% drawings by the end of this month. We've been meeting on a weekly basis to get that. We've been working with the Strauss and the Parks Department to get that designed properly and priced and ready for the second phase of construction. Moving on to the next slide. The indirect activities that we have, the Riverwalk Place has gone through some ownership change. Instead of a 53-story tower, they're looking to do a 37-story tower, and one of the partners have bought out the Feldmans, and they came to us with restarting the redevelopment process for that parcel. So moving on to Harrison Street, we're working right now through TICO easements, temporary power, relocation, undergrounding, all the things that go on with what we're doing in downtown to get these developments in place. So a lot of that coordination is happening. I noticed that somebody came up asking about the bricks on Harrison Street. Those are all getting replaced. We did address that gentleman recently, and we have the correct answer for him. So moving on to AER Tower, they started the demolition of the Germany Library. If you haven't been over there, they've got a pretty good sized bite out of the building. If you got a chance, I was out there watching it yesterday. It was quite exciting. One of the other ones is Tampa, which I kind of mentioned this before, but I found a really great video online about the product they're planning to do. And this one's kind of exciting because it has, you can rent by bedroom, and then you can also, they're doing an adaptive reuse on the court, and they're also including a co-work space inside the building. So it's kind of unique in that way that it's kind of catered to those people that are here for a short time, want to do that kind of work and do that. So it's an exciting product, and they're still working diligently to get those units in place. So we're there in the permitting process now.
You would never have to leave that building, would you?
No, we hope they do, but the idea is that they can come co-work for a few months, rent by the bedroom, come and do business in Tampa, and not have to either make a large-term investment or just live in a hotel the whole time. We had a really great Gasparilla. I saw many of you out there. I really enjoyed their time out there at Gasparilla, and I'm glad to see so many out there. Before I move on to the next district, does anybody have any questions? Great. So Channel District disappeared.
I'm sorry, Rob. Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
On the downtown district, and this is actually one of our agenda items as well, but I'll just combine it if possible. I think it said something about $38 million approximately total for the convention center improvements.
Yes.
And there was a reference to sharing that expense with the Tourist Development Council, TDC. What is that split? Is that 50-50?
50-50, it's 1-to-1 match, yes.
Okay, and how long a period of time? I saw today is only 2.8 million.
Oh yeah, today's just a program change, but our commitments have been, we put in $2 million, they matched $2 million. We did a 5-year agreement, we extended that to a 7-year agreement. And
so how long the 38 million commitment, how long is that spread out, anticipated over the next
Probably
X
about
number?
probably another 7 years. I'd have to go look at the years.
Oh, it's that long a program?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it's at just 2 million each way, so it's 1 for 2 million, and so that's.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So as we move on to Channel District, I'm going to lump these together to make it a little simpler. The first two on this list is we had a public meeting for one of the major projects there was for the parking. So we explained to the public and had a really good participation of over 100 people because we put 100 chairs out there and they're standing room only. They had a lot of questions about what we were doing with the parking. We're actually adding 82 parking spaces into the area, and we showed 13 different maps of where each one of those new parking spaces were going to be incorporated. Some of those are either going to be renovated and put in place, or other ones are going to be put in as new spaces. So there was a lot of questions about that, and we worked with Smart Mobility to make that presentation. So that was a very successful meeting. We had very good feedback on that. On the district-wide projects, A1 and A2 are the ones that are in construction, and we're in various stages of doing the public input process for the other phases right now. All the stakeholders that are directly on those streets are being contacted right now, and as I'm sitting in the back room, we were trying to make dates and times for each one of those members, including Mr. Stoltenberg, who has a number of properties in the area. So we are engaging the public on a one-on-one basis and talking to each one of those that are being affected by the parking. So more direct activities, Madison Street Park. We're getting ready to do punch lists next week, so I'm sure the Parks Department should be contacting you about a grand opening. They haven't shared a date with us yet, so we're looking forward to that. Indirect activities is Katie Keller, which is another partnership through Ken Stoltenberg and a different set of partners. They're going to redevelop the Williams Oil site to be something very similar to Florida Crystals, similar to their Channel Club, but just different layout. And we're working with them on doing pole relocation because one of the major transmission poles that are in the area are right on the curb line. It's unsafe. It has long guy wires. We're trying to get those things out of the way so that they can develop their property. We can make it safer for the pedestrians and for the safety of the vehicles that are in the area, and also make it more resilient. Any questions on Channel District? Great. Tampa Heights. Things are going fairly smoothly. We had our first co-sponsorship. They had their first Jazz Reborn was over in Waterworks Park, so that was able to get that co-sponsorship in place to help activate that park. The things we're working on with Soho Capital is we're working with Tico, Verizon, on both different kinds of undergrounding utilities, which is the kind of assistance that we can offer besides what we're doing to pay back the bond on that one. They have the cladding going up on their Heights Union building, so it's exciting that they're topped out and they're starting to enclose and get those buildings closer to completion. We had as a notable event, we had a ULI event. I'm sure I saw a number of you at that ULI event. It was well attended. We learned a lot of interesting things there, and that was hosted through there. The Tampa Heights folks have been very supportive of urban planning and engagement with the community, so we're excited to continue that relationship on an annual basis. Any questions on Tampa Heights before I move on?
Board members?
Great, thank you. So Central Park, oops, one too many. Central Park, we did run into the Meacham Urban Farm gentleman. His name's Travis. He is underway on that and very excited. He came by just yesterday to talk to us about where things are, and he was excited to see that moving. So we're excited for him as well. Encore Tampa, the last one was the Lot 9. That one did sell for $4.66 million, and they are in permitting. So we are starting those discussions about getting the normal utilities, lighting, all the things that we do when we work with our developers. So that concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Rosser.
Thank you.
Michelle Van Loan, Economic and Urban Development. Just to round out our monthly report, I just wanted to let you know, starting in March, I will be coming in response to many of you contacting me individually with questions about some of the finances, the budgeting, the balances for our CRAs. We will come with a full projection from 2020 to 2024 based on conservative revenue projections, what our balances would be with all of our current commitments, the current construction projects. If we continued with current programming, obviously those are all on an annual basis. So we will show that to you through 2024 across all the CRAs so that you can see what those actual balances look like versus what you see, for example, on our quarterly report we just submitted to you on the agenda, the fourth quarter for 2019, and you see these large balances. One example is just was discussed. You don't see it on the quarterly 4 report, but we just put out that RFP for $38 million, half of which will come out of that balance for the CRAs for downtown. So we want to show that to you all on one spreadsheet across the CRAs, and we'll be making that presentation in March. Additionally, as we prepare for our annual activity report, that is one of our required reportings as a CRA agency, we will be bringing that draft to you at the March meeting for final approval in April, and we will be bringing a presentation to you on a brief sort of summary how each of the CRAs have accomplished their CRP, their community redevelopment plan to date, as we are also now starting to report that in the annual report. Moving on the agenda, we have item number 4. For the Fair Oaks, I wanted to report back on Councilman Goods' motion that we have a task force in East Tampa to look at the 26th Avenue and North 26th Street pond. We did go out and create a task force with input on members from both Councilman Goods and the East Tampa community. Those members that we invited were Roland Daniels, Ken Stoltenberg, Natasha Goodley, Maya Carasillo, Larry Roundtree, representative from the ETBCA, Joseph Johnson, Aiza Antonio, Fran Tate, Cynthia Few, and Andrew Clark. We couldn't get everybody all to be able to attend on one same night, so we've had 3 meetings so far on Monday nights. Everyone invited continues to be on our distribution list for the minutes and what we're doing to date. On March 23rd, we have reserved Cyrus Green for a community meeting to go out to the public for the immediate area to talk about impacts on their community, what they would like to see on the pond, their impressions of the pond, and gain that community input. Leading up to that date on March 23rd, Maya and her students will be going out door to door to do anywhere between 90 to 110 surveys in person of the property owners who are within that watershed, that about 235 acre watershed that drains into the pond, to get their feedback. We will also post that survey online. We will also be going to the businesses along 22nd Street and within that corridor, letting them know about the survey and the public meeting to invite them. And we are working with the local neighborhood associations within that area to also help them get out to their residents and their membership to let them know what's coming, why, and the purpose. We will be developing flyers which will be handed out, and we are partnering with Janelle to also help get that word out into our community. Again, all culminating in March 23rd meeting, and then we will come back with the results of what we've heard from all those different sources of information. If you have any questions.
Well, Ms. Long, thank you for taking the helm like I asked during that motion. I think when I talk about a midpoint in East Tampa, we got to find somewhere to have a midpoint. And I just think that location is a midpoint that can bring a good attraction. I think a hub for people can see something going on. Hopefully we'll get some good feedback from the business owners, the residents in that area. But again, like I said, we have to find some place in the east that's a midpoint so people can see within what's happening, so they believe, and when they see things, they begin to believe, they begin to get involved. Hopefully we can begin to get on some of these boards that we do have in East Tampa. I think the lack of nothing being done, why do I want to be on a board? I don't see a benefit. People have to see a benefit sometimes. They are hungry, but they got to believe that someone's going to really put a plate out to really serve them. And I'm hoping with your leadership on this that we can get something going to have a focal point for the East, like we have a focal point going for the Midtown project, the Uptown project. We need an East Town project so people can believe. And that's what I'm hoping that we can accomplish. That's why I'm saying we've got to be aggressive now in what we're doing now so everybody won't be under fire. So we can kind of douse the fire a little bit, that's great, so people can see that we're working. But thank you for your cooperation and your work on this matter.
Okay, moving on, we did mention that item 4 is being postponed to the March, and we've already had item 5. So moving on to item 6, which is our facade grant resolution.
Move item 6.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Dingfelder, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Resolution passes.
Item number 7 is Ms. Zellman on your service level agreement and the adjustments made based on your comments at the last CRA board meeting.
Good afternoon. Andrea Zellman, Legal Department, and I apologize. I am a fan of a red line document, and I don't have one for you. It's a very long story, but I apologize. So I will quickly walk you through the changes that were made to the agreement that you actually approved by resolution in September. But as you might recall, we never did send it to the mayor for her execution. We never brought it to the city council to authorize the mayor to sign it on behalf of the city because the city council had asked for several changes to be made over the next few months. So this document you now have reflects all those changes that have been made. So I'll walk you through them quickly. And starting on page 2, the last whereas clause on that page is just basically me stating that on September 12, 2019, you approved this, but then asked for additional changes to reflect the changes to the description of services and to reflect the addition of a new position, the CRA director. And then moving on to page 3, in Article 1A, where we have the list of services to be provided by the city to the CRA. As you'll recall, Councilmember Carlson asked us to make several changes to that. We did. We brought them back before you previously. So again, that list was shortened. It used to have, I think, 15 or 18 items, and it now has 11, and we rewrote those a little bit. Moving on to page 5, Article 3A, this is where we added language saying that you now will have a CRA director. And as you'll recall, and you saw this language last month, however, last month you asked me to add the following sentence, which I did in the middle of that paragraph. The CRA director will report functionally to the CRA board and administratively to the mayor. So that's been added since last month. On the bottom of page 5 in B, we actually updated the budget chart that you see that shows how much money from each CRA goes toward paying the staff salaries. The budget department asked us to revise that. The previous one that we had included operating expenses, and the CRA does not actually pay the city for those operating expenses. So the numbers changed slightly, and on page 6, the total at the bottom right had been $1,722,418, and it's now $1,626,268. And again, that's to more accurately reflect the fact that the CRA doesn't pay the city for the operating expenses, only for the salaries. The next paragraph, C, the CRA director performance review, again, that language was added pursuant to a motion that you had made several meetings ago. You saw that last month, but I'm just reminding you of that. And that is it. Those are all the changes that have been made. This agreement is now ready for you to approve, and then we'll bring it to City Council to authorize the mayor to sign it on behalf of the city, should you do so. So does anyone have any questions?
Councilman Carlson.
I'd just like to make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion has been made by Councilman Carlson, seconded by Councilman Dingfelder. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's been moved.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure working with you, and welcome to your new CRA attorney.
Oh, Mr. Morris Massey.
You're not going far, Andrea.
And I also did want to confirm for Councilman Carlson that yes, all of the comments that you want incorporated and services you want incorporated are reflected in the new edited version, which again was the same as you had last month.
Could I just say,
Please go ahead.
I think by email, but I wanted to thank the entire staff. A lot of people worked on this over the last few months and getting us to this point. And thank you, to all of you, the chief of staff, mayor, others for getting us here. I think they're important improvements. So thank you all.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8, we have the downtown reprogramming. I want to just explain a little bit more about what was said earlier when the downtown presentation was being made. We have just put out that RFP for the $38.8 million. This reprogramming is for immediate construction needs and improvement needs that we have prior to that 2-year construction project starting. So the total amount of that would be 5.7. There's already money in the budget, so we are moving to reprogram that balance of 2.7 million. It will cover the most expensive part is the air handlers that need to be changed out right away. We're doing some ballroom lighting, some extensive lighting changes for the upcoming events that we have over the next 6 to 9 months, elevator work, and then that little bit of contingency. So that's what that reprogramming is about.
Move the item.
Okay. A motion made by Councilman Dinkfelder, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Item number 9 is the Scott Street project. We're just closing out that final contract. The difference is $78,000 was the quantity. Okay.
Motion made by Councilman Dinkfelder, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.
The last item for reprogramming is for the design and evaluation of improvements for Kid Mason.
I don't know where we're going here, so I'll say motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion moved.
Item 11 is just a request to receive and file our quarterly report for the final quarter of FY19.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Maniscalco, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes.
Our last items, item 12 through 15, are at the last meeting in January mentioned that we had some applications for community advisory committee meetings. They came in after the deadline, so we are bringing to you that second round of appointments to our various CACs. And on the memo, you can see that our only remaining vacancies across these would be 2 in the downtown CAC, 2 in the Drew Park CAC, and 2 in the Tampa Heights Riverfront CAC. You have appointed a lot of people the past 2 months, and I want to recognize all the hard work of our CRA manager and their existing CAC members to go out there and beat the bushes and really get people to apply.
Move 12 through 15.
Second. Councilman Dinkfelder, motion made by Councilman Dinkfelder, seconded by Councilman Miranda. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Very good. Very good. Let's go with information reports and new business. Let's start with Councilman Carlson. Councilman Miranda, nothing. Councilman Vieira.
Nothing with CRA. I just wanted to mention that a very nice gentleman and just a good person, Bill Hamblin, who many of y'all may know from American Legion Post 5 over on West Kennedy, passed on. And he was a good man. I met him at one of the student speech contests where our former colleague Mike Suarez invited me and introduced me to him. And he became a friend, and he was a good man. He was a Vietnam veteran. The one thing you can say about him above all is that he was a patriot. And I used to always really enjoy talking politics with him. We never agreed much. And part of my language, he would always give me hell, but it was always in good fun and jest. And he was just, you didn't get more patriotic than Bill Hamblin. So God rest his soul.
Mr. Vieira, that's what you get when you argue with individuals that know more than us.
Oh, very true. And he did. Trust me.
Councilman Maniscalco.
No, sir.
Councilman Goods.
No, sir, thank you.
Councilman Dinkfelder.
Yeah, Bill was a great guy. I met him right after 9/11. We were all out there on the Bay Shore waving flags and that sort of thing, and Bill kept at it for years and years and years. He'll wave flags somewhere else now. Mr. Chairman, I've got an important item I'd like to bring up. The administration has done exactly what we've asked them to do in regard to the CRA executive director. They're starting the nationwide search, putting out the appropriate information and getting the word out. But I'd like to suggest to this body that we go a different route. I think that that our interim director, Ms. Van Loan, has proven herself she's proven herself not only over the last 6 months when we really needed somebody to step up, and she did, but she's been with the city, I think, approximately 15 years. She's been with the CRA approximately 13 years. I've made a few calls to folks that she's worked with in various capacities, both in the community and within the city, and everybody just raves about her abilities and her credentials. She had other similar experiences, I think, up in the Midwest, which she brought to Tampa to help us. I think we should go ahead and consider today appointing Ms. Van Loan. One of the things that, couple of things about that. I don't like the fact that when cities and agencies, do a big nationwide search, but we know we've got somebody here who can do the job, who is doing the job, and then we kind of waste everybody's time. People fly in, getting their hopes up, that sort of thing. I think there's a lot of money involved. I've heard the numbers $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 possibly involved in that process of doing the nationwide search. I also believe we should promote within whenever we have the opportunity. I think we have amazing people who are rising up through the ranks within the city, and Ms. Van Loan is one of them. I've also heard, by the way, and this is really, really important, and I'll speak to my good friend Mr. Goots here, that she and I had coffee the other day talking about some of these issues, and I said, well, how about East Tampa? And she said, well, that's where she got her start, working with Ed Johnson out there in East Tampa. And she worked out there for many, many years. And I've heard that she's a consensus builder, and that's what we need in all of our CRAs, but especially in East Tampa. So I don't believe we need to continue a nationwide search. I think we should promote within. I think we can save money. I think we can save time. I appreciate the fact that the administration did exactly what we asked them to do, which is to look outside, but I don't think we need to. Mr. Chairman, I understand that you and Ms. Van Loan have a long history in terms of all the CRAs that you've worked on, and I will hold off on my motion, let you pass the gavel if you so desire to make the motion yourself.
Before we go any further, Councilman
I just want to say that sometimes you spend, and it's not the money, it's not everything else, but you look for a nationwide search, you go 3,000, 4,000 miles away. When the person's 20 feet away from you, you close your eyes and don't see that person. And for the time that she's been here, I've known her for quite a bit of time. She's done an excellent job and an excellent presentation, and has kept all the CRA members informed. And therefore, I understand what Mr. Dingfeld is saying, and I appreciate what he said. I would second that if it comes to a vote.
Councilman Maniscalco.
I remember when Chief Ward retired, and they were talking about a nationwide search for a police chief. And I said, why go nationwide when you have good people here that know the city, that you don't have to retrain and show them the ropes and teach them around town and whatnot. So I would concur and support the comments by Councilman Miranda and Councilman Dingfelder. If we have the best here, someone that's already familiar, why not just stick with that? Save taxpayer money and just go with the best that we already know we have.
Councilman Goods.
Well, Ms. Dingfeld, I always believe honesty is the best policy, no matter how you feel. When I first got on the CEC board, I wasn't, feel I didn't have enough information, but I went to Ms. Van Loan for information, and she came in, and I think she was able to really get into the minds of those newcomer board members to explain the functions and really understand some of the intricate details of the CRA. And I appreciate you for that. That taught me a lot. And throughout the time I've been on the board, I've made phone calls to her and asked. So if it wasn't her, I might go in a different route. But since I've met with her, I think she will be serious about moving East Tampa. And I make no bones about if it's her or if somebody else, whoever we hire, if it's you, Ms. Vela, I'm going to hold that person accountable for East Tampa. I so hardly mean that. I'll make a motion so quick. I mean, I'm just serious about what's going on over there. If we need more help over there, then let's get more help over there. I mean, people who come here and they complain every week. I got to hear it on radio shows. My poor mother cries every Saturday. Sometimes it's frustrating. So, Mr. David, I will concur if you make that motion, or Mr. Citro, for Ms. Verlone to be the new interim director for the CRA.
Councilman Villar.
And thank you, Mr. Chair, and I echo those sentiments. I'm unaware of any other individual being engaged on this. I'm unaware of anyone, but Ms. Van Lonem, we've worked together for some time now in this administration and the last administration, and you've always just been a delight to work with. You're professional. Your credentials speak for themselves, and I think would do very well in this. So I would echo Councilman Dingfelder's suggestions. Thank you, ma'am.
Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, as you all know, I came in charging in because I thought the last administration had made a lot of mistakes and hurt a lot of people in the community. And Ms. Van Loan, at some point, I'll paraphrase, she said, please don't, just because you think the last administration was bad, please don't hold it against us. And that was the start of a lot of conversations with her, and I found that, she has the education experience and quiet persistence working behind the scenes on lots of issues, and has been deeply involved in the different areas of the city. And I found that as someone said, there are really good people in the city, and I think she's one of them. I think we've used 10% of her ability, and I was just talking to her about it this morning. I think I want to see all of her abilities. I want to see her policy analysis. I want to see all the other things she can do, not because she couldn't have, but because I think nobody asked her before, and now she'll be the one in charge, and she'll be able to lead us in the future.
I only asked this question for one reason, CYA. Council. The city had said we were going to send out RFPs. Nothing would make me happier than to see Ms. Van Loan in this position. Do we still need to send out those RFPs since we said we were going to do them?
If the RFP process has not begun yet, if the administration has not issued those, I don't think you have to move forward with it, although, so I think the answer would be no, if that has not been initiated. I don't know where we are on that process.
And speaking with, if I could, Mr. Chairman, and speaking with the Chief of Staff yesterday on this issue, it appears that they were in the process of moving forward with the recruitment process, whatever that involved, but they hadn't, obviously hadn't gotten too far. And I think our motion could be tempered because we are not a hiring agency. Our motion would be tempered to something along the lines of, we would request that the administration promote Ms. Van Loan.
I think that'd be a more advisable way to make the motion.
Yeah, if there's any ticklish stuff like that, we'll hear back. So
then, hearing that, thank you, Council, for that. Councilman Dingfelder.
You were handing me the gavel.
No, sir. It's your motion. I am going to vote yes, and I am going to personally say, Councilman Dingfelder, thank you for making this motion.
Sure. With that, I've said everything that needs to be said. My request, or our request, would be to ask the administration to promote Ms. Van Loan to the position. What is it called? Director, to the director position for the CRA, and effective as soon as possible.
Councilman Dingfelder has made a motion, and I believe Councilman Miranda was the first to second it. All in favor say aye. Aye. And I'm sure there is none that are opposing. Welcome aboard. Amen. Of course, we do have to hear from the mayor next door, but welcome.
I just want to thank Councilman Dingfelder for making my nose red right before we get off of TV. For those of you that do know me and have worked with me, you know that I will work very hard and very diligently to carry out the needs and the improvements and improve the quality of life for our businesses and residents and our CRAs. I will do my best to work with you and coordinate with you and communicate with you. As I've been out just in the past month in my interim position, I've been out there talking with and trying to meet and attend and be at more of the meetings. And we are already in discussions with the administration, with the staff, to help with all the new programs and initiatives that we're working on, and to make sure that we can be out in the community a little bit more than we have been in the past. And that I believe that Councilman Carlson sort of summarized my comment about just not holding us against the previous decisions in the past. Without any judgment. But thank you so much. I'm deeply touched and honored, and I will do my best to meet your needs. Thank you.
Any comments or questions,
Yeah,
Mr.
one
Chairman?
comment, I'm so glad we hired her. She would have been any longer here, any period of time longer, she'd have retired before we hired her.
Mr. Cedra.
Thank you, Michelle. You and I have worked together for many, many years. I know your capabilities, and I know you will do an excellent job. Thank you for taking this position. I have, if nobody else has any comments to make, I just have, I have one thing for information reports. I make a motion to request the Strass Center President and CEO Judy Lisi to come and give a report to the CRA Board on March 12th CRA meeting at 9 a.m.
Second.
Motion is second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay, we have a motion. Thank you very much, Councilman. We have a motion to receive and file by Councilman Miranda, seconded by Councilman Maniscalco. Oh, I'm sorry, one last thing. Kudos to Solid Waste for cleaning up 7th Avenue so rapidly after the night parade. Job well done. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned until 6 o'clock tonight? Is it? Wasn't me.
What did I do now?